I've worked at the most secure research facility on Earth for 15 years. Yesterday, I found a note on my desk in my own handwriting that said, "You have to leave now." 7 security checkpoints, same as always. But that morning, something was different. Part 1. The depths of routine. I never thought the sound of my own heartbeat would terrify me. Down here, 300 miles west of San Francisco and 4 miles beneath the Pacific surface, it's the only rhythm that reminds you you're still human. Everything else, the steel corridors, the recycled air, the perpetual vibration of the turbines, belongs to the machine. The abyssal platform is a place where the government keeps both its secrets and its ghosts. I arrived 12 years ago, a young ocean physicist with more ambition than sense. Now I'm Dr. Nathan Cole, senior researcher, badge number 721C, authorized to enter every compartment except one, the core chamber. I used to joke that the ocean wasn't the real pressure, it was the paperwork. These days, the pressure feels alive. The facility is built like a nervous system. Thin corridors as arteries, circular hubs as beating hearts. Every morning begins with the same ritual. Swipe badge, eye scan, fingerprint, weight check, oxygen balance. 7 checkpoints between my quarters and the lab. The process takes 43 minutes exactly. I used to find comfort in that number. Predictability meant safety. "Morning, Cole," Guard Stevens muttered as I passed through the first gate. He never looked up from his monitor. No one does anymore. Routine is how we survive the abyss. By the 3rd checkpoint, condensation dripped from the overhead pipes, leaving tiny salt trails on the floor. Beyond the final security barrier lay the research wing, a semicircle of 20 workstations surrounding a transparent dome. And in the dome's center, suspended in a magnetic field, gleaming like wet glass, floated the object. We call it that because anything else would be dishonest. Artifact implies purpose, anomaly implies explanation. It is neither. It's a smooth metallic sphere roughly 20 feet across, discovered off the coast of Greenland, embedded in glacial ice older than human civilization. It defies every known law of matter. It has no temperature gradient, no measurable mass, and it hums, a constant tone hovering just below human hearing. You feel it more than hear it, like a thought pressing against your skull. That hum was my white noise for 12 years. Then, 3 weeks ago, it changed. I noticed the shift at exactly 16:42 hours. While comparing last week's harmonic data, the tone dipped by less than half a hertz, an amount too small for our sensors to flag. But my body felt it instantly. The hairs on my arms lifted, the air seemed to pulse. I ran the numbers again and again, trying to convince myself it was fatigue. Eventually, I logged the anomaly, attached my calculations, and closed the report. That should have been the end of it. The next morning, when I opened my locker, a folded slip of paper slid out and fluttered to the floor. 5 words in blue ink. "If you hear it, don't answer." No signature. The handwriting was mine. For a long minute, I just stared at it. The abyssal platform prohibits personal notes. Everything digital, traceable, archived. Paper doesn't even circulate down here. Yet the fibers were damp with the facility's recycled humidity. I turned the sheet over, hoping for an explanation. Nothing. Just my own cramped letters, the way I cross my T's with long horizontal strokes. I considered reporting it, but stopped. How do you tell your director you've started writing yourself warnings in your sleep? Instead, I folded the note back into my pocket and followed the ritual of checkpoints. Badge, scan, voice print. At the 6th gate, the guard asked if I was okay. I must have looked pale. "Long night," I muttered. "Too much data." He laughed softly. "Down here, that's all we got." When I reached the lab, Mark Rivera was already there, sipping burnt coffee and calibrating the field projectors. Mark's the engineer who keeps this place alive, part mechanic, part philosopher, always humming classic rock through his respirator. He looked up, caught my expression, and frowned. "You see the dip, too?" he asked. I froze. "You noticed?" He nodded. "Barely. Thought it was interference from the turbine line." Then I heard something else, like a second tone riding the first. That was the first confirmation I wasn't losing my mind. "You didn't log it?" He shook his head. "Director Peterson doesn't like noise complaints." Peterson, the architect of order, silver-haired, ice-eyed, a man who speaks in measured syllables like a metronome. He once told us, "The ocean is chaos. Our job is to make it behave." By 0800 hours, the research team assembled for the daily briefing. Peterson stood before the central screen, tablet in hand. "No significant deviations," he began, reciting the same mantra he'd spoken for a decade. "Thermal output constant at 19.2 degrees C. Gravitational flux stable. Radiation signature unchanged. We proceed with standard mapping protocols." His voice flattened each word until meaning dissolved. "Any observations?" I should have said something about the frequency dip, about the note. Instead, I glanced at Mark, and he shook his head imperceptibly. We'd both learned what happens to people who ask the wrong questions. They're reassigned topside, a polite phrase for vanishing from the system. After the briefing, I sat at my terminal, pretending to analyze atomic scatter models while my mind looped the warning, "If you hear it, don't answer." The hum vibrated through the floor, steady, hypnotic. Somewhere in that tone I imagined layers, like distant voices buried beneath the sound. I told myself it was fatigue. I told myself the mind can project patterns into noise. But when I blinked, the waveform on my monitor shifted on its own, spelling 3 letters across the display, NAT. Then the data reset, blank again. I spun around. No one had seen it. That night, after another 43-minute journey through the checkpoints, I lay in my bunk, staring at the ceiling's faint condensation trails. The hum seeped through the ventilation shafts, an ocean heartbeat surrounding me. My pulse synchronized with it, steady, deep, alien. At 0200 hours, I woke to the sound of whispering, not through the speakers, but inside the room. A woman's voice, soft, almost kind. "Nathan, can you hear me?" I sat upright. The room was empty. The monitor on my desk glowed faintly. Then silence, total silence. The hum was gone. For 12 years, it had never stopped. Even during maintenance, the field kept it vibrating. Now, for the first time, the ocean was utterly still. The absence of sound was louder than a scream. I rushed to the corridor. Red standby lights cast everything in crimson haze. A low-pressure alarm blinked green. Normal, no emergency, but every hair on my body stood up. From the far end of the hall came a metallic clang, as if someone had dropped a wrench. I called out, "Mark?" My voice echoed strangely, delayed by half a second, like something repeated it from deeper in the structure. I walked toward the sound, heart pounding. The corridor seemed longer than usual, stretching like a tunnel of mirrors. Another clang. Then, faintly, a whisper again. "Don't let them hear you." I turned. No one. Only the reflection of my own face in the pressure-sealed glass. Eyes wide, mouth slightly open, except the reflection wasn't perfectly synced. When I lifted my hand, the reflection hesitated, then moved, and smiled. The hum returned in a violent surge, shaking the lights overhead. The reflection flickered and vanished. I stumbled back into my quarters, locked the door, and pressed my palms to my ears. But the vibration came from inside my skull. The note burned in my pocket like a live wire. Down here, in the deepest dark on Earth, I realized something I should have known from the start. The ocean doesn't echo back what you say. It answers. The next morning, the corridors felt colder. The metallic tang in the air was sharper, almost electric. I hadn't slept, but no one down here ever really does. The artificial light never changes. You lose the concept of sunrise, and after a while, your body stops expecting it. When I reached the lab, the object floated as it always had, motionless, humming with its low resonance, but something in the tone was wrong. It wasn't a continuous frequency anymore. It had developed rhythm, a pulse, almost human. Mark was waiting for me near the control console. His skin looked pale beneath the fluorescent lighting, and his usual smirk was gone. "You heard it too, didn't you?" he asked. "I didn't sleep," I admitted. "There was silence first, then it came back." "Same here." I checked the logs. No record of any shutdown. We stared through the transparent dome. Tiny ripples of light shimmered across the object's surface, like reflections on shallow water, except there was no light source inside the containment field. The reflections were coming from within. "Peterson needs to see this," Mark said. "Peterson will bury it," I replied. Before we could argue further, the door hissed open. Dr. Evelyn Hart stepped in, short, silver hair tied back, eyes that could dissect a lie before you spoke it. She'd been at the platform since its foundation, the only person who could talk to Peterson without fear. "I saw the logs," she said quietly. "Nathan, come with me." Her office was small, lined with ancient oceanography books and digital screens showing deep-sea sonar maps. She locked the door and turned the privacy filter on the glass until the outside world disappeared. "I don't want you to report what happened last night," she said. I blinked. "Why?" "Because it's happened before." She slid a thin metal drive across the desk. "This is off-network. I shouldn't even have it. It's from the first research cycle, 15 years ago, before you joined." I connected it to my terminal. Files loaded, dozens of them, most labeled with numeric codes. One caught my eye. Ward A sequence 17 MP4. The video showed a young woman in a lab coat speaking into a camera. Her name tag read, Dr. Rena Ward. Her eyes were wild but intelligent. "If anyone finds this, you need to understand. It's not an artifact. It's a frequency, a living frequency." She turned toward the camera as alarms blared in the background. "It listens, it learns, and once you respond, it—" The feed cut off in static. I looked up. "What happened to her?" "Disappeared," Hart said. "Her whole team was reassigned topside. No record after that. Peterson called it a pressure accident." "Why keep the footage?" "Because I want someone else to know I wasn't crazy." Before I could reply, the lights dimmed and a low tremor rattled the room. A power fluctuation, brief but heavy enough to shake coffee cups across the desk. Hart's gaze darted to the monitor. "Containment field energy spike, pulsar 3%. "Not possible," she whispered. "We haven't adjusted the reactors." Then, through the wall speaker, Peterson's voice crackled, "All units remain at your stations. Temporary grid recalibration. Nothing to worry about." Mark's voice came through my comms channel immediately after. "Nate, you seeing this? The object's surface. It's changing." We ran back to the lab. The sphere was rotating, slowly, deliberately, like a planet aligning. Across its surface, lines of faint luminescence appeared, delicate filaments forming complex geometric patterns. They looked like symbols, except the symbols kept shifting, as though the metal was liquid thought. Everyone stood frozen. A technician crossed herself under her breath. The hum deepened, vibrating the glass. Then, for a fraction of a second, the containment dome fogged up completely, and the lights went out. Total darkness. When emergency lights flickered back on, something was wrong with the observation windows. My reflection wasn't matching my movement again. It lagged, maybe half a second. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the readouts, but the monitors now displayed an unknown code across every screen. D-N-R-O answer Hart's hand trembled slightly. It's talking to us. No, I said. It's answering. That night, I couldn't stay in my quarters. I went to the observation dome, the one that faced the open sea. Through the transparent wall, there was nothing but blackness. No fish, no bioluminescence, just an infinite void pressing against the glass. The hum from the core seeped through the metal bulkheads. It had changed again, faster now, oscillating like a distorted heartbeat. I put on my earpiece recorder and began documenting. Old habit. 0200 hours, I whispered. Resonance unstable. No visual changes in oceanic perimeter. Emotional state. Something moved outside the window. I froze the recorder. At first, I thought it was debris, but debris doesn't move against the current. The shape slid closer, dark and humanoid, limbs undulating like they were underwater. Yet it was on the other side of reinforced glass. The emergency lights cast a faint glow across its face, and my heart stopped. It was me, not a reflection, not a trick of light. Another version of me floating beyond the glass, expression blank. Bubbles rose around its body, though the sea outside was still. Its lips moved, forming words I couldn't hear. Then its eyes rolled white, and it pressed one palm against the glass. A crack formed under its hand. I stumbled back, nearly falling over the observation chair. The crack sealed itself a second later, smooth as if nothing had happened. My other self was gone. I ran back through the corridors, chest tight, the recycled air tasting like metal and fear. When I reached my door, a shadow was waiting. Peterson. "Dr. Cole," he said quietly, his face unreadable. "You've been in restricted areas." I froze. "Sir, He cut me off. "You and Rivera both. Do you understand how fragile this project is?" "There's something happening in the core," I said. "You know that." Peterson stepped closer. "What I know, Doctor, is that the human mind reacts poorly to isolation. You've been below sea level for too long. We're scheduling a psych evaluation for you. Effective immediately." "I'm not imagining this." "Then prove it," he said. "Show me evidence. Until then, consider yourself relieved of research duties." He turned and walked away, boots echoing down the corridor. I stood alone, breathing hard, the hum rising in my ears. It felt like it was laughing at me. I went back to my quarters and tore through my locker, searching for the note, the first warning. It was gone. In its place was a new one, folded neatly, paper damp with condensation. Same handwriting. Mine. "They know you heard it." I felt the walls close in. The hum grew louder, shaking the cups on my desk. I looked toward the mirror above the sink, and for an instant, there were two reflections again. Both of them smiling. That's when I realized I was already too late to stop whatever had started. I spent the next 48 hours pretending everything was normal. No research logs, no questions, just silence. Down here, silence is survival. But inside my head, the hum had rooted itself, a pulse I couldn't shut off. Even when I pressed my palms against my ears, it stayed there, inside the skull, whispering beneath the blood. Mark found me in the cafeteria on the second morning, sitting over cold coffee. His voice was barely a whisper. "You've seen the notes, haven't you?" My head snapped up. "You too?" He nodded, sliding something under the table, a crumpled piece of paper. "They know you heard it, written in jagged lines." Same handwriting. We said nothing more. Cameras were everywhere. The only safe space was the maintenance deck, a forgotten level between oxygen regulation and turbine control. After the next shift, we met there, crouched beside the humming pipes. "I pulled the security feeds," Mark said, handing me a small data chip. "You're not gonna like this." On the screen, I watched last night's footage, my own image walking down the hall toward the lab at 2:16 a.m. My body language was calm, purposeful. The problem was, at that time, I was locked in my quarters under biometric seal. The second me reached my workstation, scribbled something on a screen, then turned directly toward the camera. He smiled, the same faint, unnatural smile I'd seen in the reflection, and whispered a single word that the microphones barely caught. Soon, the image flickered and he vanished. Not walked away, vanished. Mark exhaled slowly. It's like he just phased out. I couldn't answer. The air felt thinner, every breath dry and shallow. "Peterson's covering this up," I said finally. "Hart knew something and Ward before her. There's a pattern." Mark nodded grimly. "And if it keeps repeating, maybe we're next in line." That night, the facility felt alive. The vents exhaled in rhythmic bursts. The metal floors trembled with faint resonance. I couldn't tell where the object's hum ended and my heartbeat began. The mind starts bending when you spend too long below the surface. You lose sense of where the world ends and you begin. By 0100 hours, I decided I couldn't sit still. I needed proof, something tangible that would make Peterson listen. I left my quarters and followed the main shaft to the core access corridor, security level Alpha 3. I didn't have clearance anymore, but Hart's old ID chip still hung from her office board. The door's scanner flickered green. The lock disengaged. Inside, the containment dome loomed larger than I remembered. Thick glass walls, suspended catwalks, and in the center, that impossible sphere. The lights inside the chamber were dimmed, replaced by the object's own glow, faint silver-blue radiance pulsing in time with the hum. I approached the glass. Every step echoed. For a moment, I swore the air around it bent, as if gravity dipped toward the sphere. Within its metallic surface, light rippled, slow, hypnotic. My reflection stared back at me, distorted by the curve. "Why are you here?" a voice asked. I turned sharply. No one. The comms line was dead silent. The voice had been inside the room. I took a breath and forced myself closer. "What are you?" I whispered. The hum deepened, and a pattern of light raced across the sphere's surface, lines converging into a spiral. For a fraction of a second, I thought I saw a human eye forming within the light, blinking once before melting back into metal. My watch beeped. A motion sensor alert. Movement detected behind me. I spun around. The catwalk was empty. Then I saw it, a shadow sliding across the far wall, tall and angular, moving without sound. It stopped at the doorway. The silhouette was mine. "Who are you?" I shouted. The figure tilted its head just slightly, the same way I do when I'm thinking. Then it raised its hand, pointing at the glass. "Listen," it said, though its lips didn't move. The sphere flared. The hum erupted into a violent pulse that rattled my bones. I stumbled backward, clutching the railing. Lights flickered, alarms screamed. The containment field registered a flux surge, 30% above maximum tolerance. Then everything went white. When the light receded, the shadow was gone. The object floated motionless again, humming softly as though nothing had happened. Security stormed in minutes later, rifles raised, shouting commands. They hauled me out and dragged me to Peterson's office. He didn't look angry, just tired. "Do you understand how dangerous your actions were?" "You've been lying to us," I spat. "There's something alive in there." Peterson folded his hands. "Alive is a strong word, Doctor. Let's use reactive. It responds to stimuli. That doesn't make it conscious." "It spoke to me." He smiled faintly. "You're projecting, Cole. The human brain is wired to find voices in chaos. Pareidolia, a trick of perception." I slammed my fist against the desk. "Then explain this." I pulled out Mark's chip and replayed the footage of my double. Peterson's eyes narrowed. For the first time, he looked unsettled. "Where did you get that?" From internal surveillance. Don't bother deleting it. It's copied topside. I lied, but he didn't need to know that. He leaned back, studying me. You think you've uncovered something extraordinary, don't you? But you're only seeing one layer. What's that supposed to mean? Peterson rose and walked to the window. Beyond it, the object glowed faintly in its chamber. The deeper you stare into the abyss, he said, the more the abyss rearranges itself to resemble you. Go get some rest, Nathan, you'll need it. When I was escorted back to my quarters, Mark was gone, his bunk stripped clean, personal effects removed. The system listed him as transferred to surface operations. I knew better. At 0300 hours, I woke again to the sound of the hum rising, but this time it carried rhythm. 4 short pulses, then silence, then again. Morse code. I scrambled for my tablet, translating. The pattern repeated, C-O-L-E. The object was calling my name. I recorded the pulses, heart hammering, mind splitting between terror and wonder. Then the lights flickered, and across my computer screen appeared a single sentence in distorted text. You asked what I am. My throat went dry. I didn't type that. The cursor blinked once, then new words appeared, one at a time. I am what listens back. The hum stopped. The room went silent. And in that silence, for the first time since I'd arrived 12 years ago, I felt the pressure of the ocean, not around the facility, but inside my chest, crushing from within. Outside my door, something heavy moved down the hall. Slow, deliberate footsteps. The lights dimmed again, cycling between white and red. A voice, calm and male, echoed through the intercom, Peterson's, but slower, distorted. Dr. Cole, it said, we need you in the core. The sound wasn't coming from the speaker. It came from inside the room. I turned toward the mirror. My reflection wasn't moving. It just smiled. I didn't sleep again. Sleep had become an illusion, something people on the surface still believed in. Down here, the hum was all that existed, filling every gap in thought. When I opened my eyes, the note I'd left on my desk was gone. The mirror across from my bed had been cleaned, perfectly spotless, and yet, faintly, in the glass, I could see the outline of a fingerprint, my own, smudged from the inside. At 0600 hours, the alarms began. Short bursts, 3 tones, then silence. I threw on my uniform and rushed toward the corridor. The air smelled different, ionized, charged. A voice crackled over the intercom. Containment breach in Section C. All personnel report to emergency stations. My heart slammed against my ribs. Section C housed the auxiliary power grid, 1 level above the core chamber. As I sprinted through the hall, red lights strobed across the steel walls, creating shadows that seemed to move independently of their owners. One shape in particular lagged a beat behind me. I didn't dare look directly at it. When I reached the emergency bulkhead, I saw Hart already there, overriding the security system. Her hands trembled as she punched commands into the console. It's the reactor valves, she shouted over the klaxons. The object's energy signature spiked again. It's feeding on the containment field. Feeding, I repeated. She met my gaze. Yes, feeding, Nathan. It's alive. The door released with a hiss. Inside, Mark's workstation was empty, his monitors shattered. The core's protective dome glowed brighter than I'd ever seen. Each pulse rippling outward like a heartbeat, amplified 1,000 times. We had minutes before the field reached critical load. Hart moved fast, rerouting power through the backup relays. I can buy us time, she said, but if the system resets, the feedback could... A metallic screech interrupted her. The observation window on the right cracked under pressure. Water didn't leak through. It bled light. Thick, blinding beams poured from the fissure like liquid sunrise. Hart shielded her eyes. It's breaking through dimensions. I'll shut the primary conduits, I shouted, running toward the maintenance console. The hum intensified, vibrating my bones. On the screens, hundreds of data lines scrolled faster than I could read. Measurements shifting, equations collapsing into symbols I didn't recognize. Between them, brief flashes of imagery appeared. Faces, cities, clouds swirling backward. Then just for an instant, I saw something that made me stop breathing. Lydia, her face, smiling, standing in her kitchen back in Oregon. But the feed wasn't from any camera. The object was showing me her, alive, miles above us. She turned toward the unseen lens, lips forming a word. Run. The vision snapped away. Hart yelled something, but her voice drowned in the siren. She was sealing the pressure valve. Sparks rained from the ceiling as power conduits burst overhead. The entire facility seemed to shift on its foundation. And then, silence again. Total suffocating silence. The lights flickered back to white. The hum vanished. Hart slumped against the control board, gasping for breath. It's contained, for now. I knelt beside her. We have to tell Peterson. Her eyes filled with something between anger and resignation. Peterson knows. He's known since the first cycle. What do you mean? She reached into her coat and pulled out a small, rusted keycard. You want answers? Go to Storage Vault 9. Use this. It's where they keep the classified physical logs, what's left of them. Why me? Because you're hearing it, she said softly. And because you're the only one who hasn't lost your mind. Yet. Before I could respond, the door behind us burst open. Security flooded in, rifles raised. Peterson followed, calm as always, his voice clipped. Dr. Hart, Dr. Cole, step away from the console. Hart didn't move. You lied to us, she said. All of us. What's in that sphere isn't from the stars. It's from here, from us. Peterson's expression didn't change. That will be all, Doctor. One of the guards reached for her arm. She pulled away, yelling, You're killing them every time it activates. That's when it happened. The hum exploded again, louder than before, an earthquake in sound. The lights shattered. The guards screamed as their shadows detached from their bodies, crawling across the walls like living things. I grabbed Hart and ran. We dove through the nearest maintenance hatch, sliding down the narrow chute into the lower deck. The noise cut off like someone had flipped a switch. For a long moment, we just breathed in the darkness, the only illumination coming from the emergency beacons pulsing along the floor. Hart pressed the keycard into my palm. Storage Vault 9, she repeated. Get there before they lock it down. What about you? She managed a tight smile. Someone has to keep them distracted. She pushed me toward the next corridor and turned back toward the access hatch. I wanted to stop her, to drag her with me, but she was already gone, climbing back toward the chaos. I moved fast. The vault was 3 levels down, buried beneath the hydro lab. Along the way, I passed signs of what the hum had done. Flickering monitors, handprints burned into the walls. Air ducts that hissed faintly like whispering mouths. When I reached the vault door, I swiped Hart's keycard. The light blinked green. Inside, the room was cold, lined with metal cabinets and thick glass containers. Dust coated everything, unusual for a place cleaned daily by drones. These records were ancient, handwritten files, video reels, even audio cassettes. I scanned the labels until one name caught my eye. Dr. Rena Ward. I popped the tape into the player. Static filled the speakers, followed by a familiar voice, calm, determined. If you're hearing this, then it's too late, Ward said. We thought we could map it, understand it. But the truth is worse. It's not an object. It's a mirror, a living one. It doesn't show you what's outside. It shows you what's coming. The tape crackled. Every activation creates an echo. Sometimes the echo takes form. Sometimes it replaces you. My stomach turned cold. Close the door, Ward whispered, her voice barely audible through the static. Whatever you do, don't let it listen long enough to learn your name." Then the tape ended. I sat in the dark, listening to my heartbeat. That's when the overhead intercom crackled to life. Peterson's voice, calm and flat. "Dr. Cole, report to command immediately." I didn't move. The intercom clicked again, but this time the voice wasn't Peterson's, it was mine. "Don't go, Nathan, you're safer where you are." The vault lights dimmed, flickering between red and blue. The air pressure dropped. Somewhere behind me, a cabinet creaked open. I turned, pulse hammering, and froze. In the glass reflection of the storage unit, I saw movement. A figure stood at the far end of the room. Obscured by shadow, it stepped forward, and as it did, the overhead lights flared, revealing my own face staring back at me, eyes black, smiling. He raised his hand, palm outward, and whispered, perfectly synchronized with my own breathing, "Listen." The hum returned, louder than ever. Part 2. The pulse beneath the waves. The floor quivered under my boots, a dull vibration that crawled up my legs and into my spine. The vault's fluorescent lights blinked in frantic rhythm, the hum swelling until it drowned out the sound of my own heartbeat. My reflection, the other Nathan, stood at the far end of the room, his smile fixed, the black in his eyes spreading like oil. He raised his hand again, palm outward, as if pressing against invisible glass. The temperature dropped fast. Breath misted in front of me. Paper files and dust lifted from the shelves, hovering weightlessly. It was as though the air itself had turned into liquid, swirling around us in invisible currents. "Stop it," I whispered. "Whatever you are, stop." The reflection tilted its head. "You called me," it said. The voice came from everywhere, walls, ceiling, inside my own skull. "You listened. Now I'm here." The hum deepened into a single piercing tone that rattled the metal around me. The lights flickered and exploded, showering sparks. I dove behind a cabinet. When I looked again, the reflection was gone. For one moment, the silence was absolute. Then came the sirens. A recorded female voice cut through the static. "Containment failure, level Delta, all personnel to evacuation stations." The floor tilted, groaning as pressure valves vented steam through ruptured seams. Somewhere above, metal screamed against metal. I knew that sound. It meant the ocean was pressing in. I ran. The hallway outside was chaos. Strobes painted everything in red and white. Sections of the ceiling had collapsed, water hissing from cracked pipes. Security officers sprinted past carrying shock rifles, shouting into dead radios. "Seal the lower sectors," someone yelled. "We're losing integrity on Ring 3. I shoved through the crowd, heading not for the escape lifts, but back towards the core. Heart's warning pounded in my head. It's feeding on the containment field. If that thing escaped, there'd be nothing left to save. Halfway up the main access tunnel, I met Peterson. His lab coat was torn, his face streaked with ash and sweat. 2 guards flanked him. "Cole," he barked, "where the hell have you been?" "Storage Vault 9, I said, panting. "Ward's files," she knew. "The object's not reacting anymore. It's creating, it's building copies." Peterson's expression tightened. "You saw it, didn't you?" "You knew this could happen," I snapped. "You've known for years." He didn't deny it. Instead, he gestured for his men to block the corridor. "We're initiating Containment Protocol Omega. The chamber will be sealed and flooded if necessary." "You can't drown something that doesn't need air," I said. He stepped closer. "Then give me an alternative, Doctor." Before I could answer, the walls shuddered again. The lights went black for 2 seconds. When they came back on, one of Peterson's guards was gone. No sound, no body, just gone. The remaining guard panicked, raising his rifle and spinning in circles. Peterson shouted for calm, but his voice cracked. Behind him, shadows along the wall began to move in the wrong direction, sliding upward like ink on glass. "Run," I said. We bolted down the corridor as the hum crescendoed into a roar. The air turned thick, vibrating so violently that the metal panels buckled inward. Ahead, a door to the side corridor burst open, and a figure stumbled out, heart, blood streaking her forehead. "Nathan," she gasped, "the feedback's reversing. The object isn't contained. It's awake." She grabbed my sleeve, dragging me toward the emergency ladder. "If we can reach the manual regulators in the reactor bay, we can cut its power flow. We shut it off at the source, or the whole facility's gone." Peterson's voice rose behind us. "You'll kill every system on the platform." Heart didn't slow. Better dead than whatever it's turning us into. We climbed. The ladder vibrated so hard my fingers went numb. Somewhere below, I heard the metallic crack of a collapsing bulkhead, followed by a rush of water. The Pacific was coming for us. At the top of the shaft, we emerged into the reactor bay, an enormous cathedral of machinery. Rows of turbines lined the walls, each humming with deep mechanical resonance. But now the rhythm was wrong. The machines pulsed in time with the object's hum, as if the facility itself had fallen under its control. Hart pulled open an access panel. Sparks flew. "You'll have to reroute the conduits manually. Overload them so the system burns out before the automatic dampeners reset." I hesitated. "That could vaporize half this level." She gave a grim smile. "Then work fast." As I began rerouting wires, the room's light changed. Dim at first, then suffused with pale blue glow. The turbines slowed. One by one, their rotating cores turned translucent, revealing shapes within. Human shapes, frozen figures embedded in light, each one a perfect replica of someone I knew. Technicians, security, Mark, dozens of them. Their eyes were closed, their faces serene, like wax statues caught mid-breath. "What is this?" I whispered. "The echoes," Hart said. "It's replacing us. Every surge copies a consciousness. When it stabilizes, it keeps the one that obeys." Before I could respond, one of the luminous figures opened its eyes. They were black. Its head snapped toward us with a cracking sound, body moving stiffly, unnaturally. Then another turned, and another. Hart grabbed my arm. "Run!" We sprinted down the central walkway as the replicas began to step out of the turbines, shedding shards of light like broken glass. Their footsteps echoed in perfect synchronization, our own private army of ghosts. The emergency exit loomed ahead. I slammed the override. The door jammed halfway open. Hart dropped to her knees, forcing it with a crowbar. I turned back just in time to see the first of the echoes reach the walkway, its expression empty but focused entirely on me. "Nathan," it said in my voice, "you don't need to run. You're already home." I swung a wrench at its head. The impact caved its skull, but instead of blood, a spray of liquid light hissed from the wound. The thing didn't fall. It just kept coming. "Hart!" She wrenched the door open wide enough for us to squeeze through. We dove inside, slamming it behind us. The hum dropped again to a low, steady pulse. My chest heaved as I leaned against the cold wall. Hart wiped her forehead, smearing blood and sweat. "We're out of time," she said. "We either cut the power now or the whole ocean's going to hear that sound." I looked back at the sealed door. Faint blue light seeped through the cracks. On the other side, the echoes were still walking. "Then let's kill it," I said. We moved toward the main reactor core. Behind us, something knocked. 3 slow, deliberate taps on the metal door. Then my own voice whispered through the intercom, "You can't kill what's already inside you." We ran through the reactor corridor, boots slamming against the grated floor as the hum deepened behind us, chasing us like a heartbeat that didn't belong to any living thing. Every light flickered to blue, as though the object had replaced electricity with its own pulse. The main reactor door loomed ahead, a steel slab reinforced for atomic containment. Hart entered the manual code, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the lock disengaged with a long hiss, releasing a wave of heat and ozone. Inside, the air shimmered. Rows of power cores lined the room, their plasma streams throbbing in sync with the object's rhythm. Normally, they glowed orange. Now they pulsed silver white. "God," Hart muttered, "it's using the entire reactor as a transmitter." "Transmitting what?" I asked. "Not what, Nathan, who?" I looked closer at the far wall. Metal had melted away in places, exposing a cavity I'd never seen before. A door, ancient, rusted, partially fused with the reactor's foundation. Faint symbols were etched into the surface, identical to the ones that had appeared across the object. Hart approached carefully. "There was never supposed to be a sublevel beneath the reactor," she said. "Blueprints don't show anything below Ring 1. She placed her hand on the symbols. The metal vibrated under her touch. "It's like it's calling to us." I caught her wrist. "Or it's baiting us." But before either of us could stop it, the door split open with a sound like grinding stone. A gust of freezing air spilled out. Inside, a staircase spiraled downward, illuminated only by faint, pulsing veins of light running along the walls. Hart looked at me. "If this thing's drawing power from somewhere, it's down there." I hesitated only a second. "Then we finish it." We descended. Each step groaned under our weight, echoing like distant thunder. The deeper we went, the quieter everything became, until the only sound was our breathing. At the bottom, the passage opened into a vast cylindrical chamber, far older than the rest of the facility. The walls weren't metal, they were rock, slick with condensation and carved with intricate spiraling markings that seemed to move when you weren't looking directly at them. In the center of the cavern stood a structure unlike anything I'd seen, a glass cylinder filled with dark liquid. Inside floated another sphere, smaller than the object upstairs, about 3 feet in diameter, pulsing faintly in counter-rhythm to the one above. Hart's voice shook. "There are two." My mind reeled. Or maybe this was the first. I stepped closer. The smaller sphere's surface rippled. For a split second, my reflection appeared in it, but not the me that stood there. This version looked older, tired, eyes sunken with years of something worse than fear. He mouthed words I couldn't hear, but I could read his lips clearly. "It doesn't end." The sphere vibrated, sending shockwaves through the chamber. Hart stumbled back. "Nathan, we need to—" The rest of her sentence drowned in static. My earpiece crackled with interference. And then a voice broke through. Peterson's, panicked for the first time. "Cole, Hart, whatever you're doing down there, stop. The object's energy just spiked off the scale. You're feeding it." Hart shouted into her mic. "We found a second core. You didn't build this part of the facility, did you?" Static again, then silence. The lights dimmed. Something enormous stirred above us, deep in the stone ceiling, like a living muscle flexing. Dust rained down. Hart pointed at a terminal near the cylinder, ancient but still active, powered by a flickering interface. "We can cut it from here." I started typing commands. The language on the screen wasn't English, or any language I knew. Characters shifted every time I blinked, rearranging themselves like they were alive. But my fingers moved anyway, guided by some instinct I couldn't explain. The system accepted my input. A tone echoed through the cavern, 3 rising notes. The hum from above faltered for the first time since the disaster began. Hart gasped, "It's working!" Then the ground split open. A fissure tore through the floor between us, sending her sprawling to one side and me to the other. From the crack poured the same blinding blue light as the object, hot, impossible, alive. The noise that followed wasn't just sound, it was language. "We are the echo." The words vibrated through the rock, through our bodies, through the marrow of my bones. My vision blurred, shapes bled into each other. For a moment I saw countless versions of the facility, some pristine, some flooded, others filled with fire. And in every one I was there, doing exactly what I was doing now. Hart screamed over the noise. "It's showing us time, different timelines." The fissure widened. One of the luminous copies from above crawled out of it, limbs disjointed, eyes black and wet. It dragged itself upright, smiling. Behind it came another and another. I pulled my sidearm, a useless gesture, but fired anyway. The bullets passed through them, tearing streaks of light that sealed instantly. Hart clutched her comm again. "Peterson, do you copy? We're overrun." No response. The echoes advanced. Then, as suddenly as it began, everything froze. The light dimmed. The figures stopped mid-step, heads tilted upward like they were listening to something distant. A low male voice filled the chamber. Not Peterson's, not mine. Something older. He listens, he remembers, he answers. The smaller sphere cracked. A tendril of blue energy coiled out, wrapping around the nearest echo. The creature convulsed and disintegrated into a spray of particles that merged with the tendril, which then slithered upward toward the surface through the fissure, disappearing into the ceiling. The hum above shifted pitch again. Whatever we'd done down here had changed it. Hart looked at me, her face pale but eyes burning. "It's communicating between them, the two cores, like neurons firing in a single brain. So if we kill one, we might kill the network." We backed away from the fissure, heading toward the stairs. The rock trembled harder with each step. The smaller sphere's surface was collapsing inward, light flickering like a dying star. I stopped halfway up the steps and looked back. "It's going to blow," I said. Hart's voice trembled. "Then we better make sure it takes the right one with it." We ran. The tunnel shuddered as energy rippled through the stone. Somewhere behind us, the sphere imploded, with a sound that was half thunder, half scream. A wave of white light chased us up the stairs, burning everything in its path. We burst through the reactor door just as the shockwave hit, slamming it closed behind us. The impact threw us against the wall. When I opened my eyes, the light was gone. The hum had stopped again. Dead silence. Hart coughed, wiping soot from her face. "Did we stop it?" Before I could answer, the intercom above us flickered. Peterson's voice came through, ragged, half static. "Cole, the object, it's changing shape." Then a final whisper that froze my blood. "It's not below you anymore. It's here." Hart and I turned toward the far end of the reactor room. The air shimmered. A new sphere, larger, darker, was forming in midair, light twisting around it like a storm. The air in the reactor bay thickened until breathing felt like swallowing glass. The new sphere hovered 6 feet above the grated floor, spinning slowly, surrounded by a haze of silver light. Each rotation left ripples suspended in the air, waves that never faded. Hart backed away, whispering, "It replicated itself again. That's what the smaller one was for. It learned how." The emergency lights blinked twice and died. For a heartbeat, we were blind. Then the sphere brightened, casting its glow across the room. Shadows warped across the machinery, bending in impossible angles, like gravity was rewriting its own rules. I drew my sidearm out of habit, pointless. The sphere wasn't something you could shoot. It wasn't even solid anymore. Its surface expanded and contracted like lungs. Hart pointed toward the far console. "The manual purge controls. If we vent the plasma lines, we might disrupt the magnetic field." "Might?" I asked. She met my eyes. "You got something better." We split up. She sprinted to the east panel while I ran for the main control deck. The hum grew louder with every step, now layered with a low-frequency throb that made the metal underfoot vibrate. My vision blurred at the edges. Every breath smelled of ozone and copper. When I reached the console, half the controls were dead. The ones still glowing were covered in symbols that weren't part of any system I'd ever seen, twisting fluid shapes that rearranged themselves when I tried to focus. I slammed my palm on the manual override and keyed in the emergency purge code, Delta WR4. The response flashed across the screen. Access denied. Then another message appeared on its own. Hello, Nathan. I froze. Across the room, Hart shouted, "The purge valves are jammed. It's hijacking the system." The sphere pulsed once, hard. The sound was a physical blow, throwing me to the floor. My nose bled instantly. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The lights flickered, and for one terrible second, I saw what lived inside the glow. Figures, hundreds of them, swirling in the core of the sphere. Their faces merged and separated, forming an ever-changing mosaic of human expressions. I recognized some. Mark, the missing technicians, even Dr. Ward from the old footage. Each face mouthed silent words, too many to understand. The hum deepened again. Hart screamed, "It's pulling the field toward us. The whole bay's becoming unstable." I crawled toward the central junction, coughing through the heat. If we couldn't shut it down from the consoles, maybe we could cut power manually. The reactor's heart lay below the walkway, a lattice of exposed conduits feeding plasma energy upward. Hart ran to join me, tossing a heavy wrench my way. "You can sever the main lines from there, just don't look into the light." We dropped to our knees, working fast. Each bolt we loosened made the hum louder, like the sphere was protesting. The machinery shuddered. The conduits began to glow red-hot. Then, without warning, the air filled with static whispers. Dozens of voices overlapping, repeating the same phrase, "You shouldn't have come." The sound wasn't coming from the speakers, it came from inside our skulls. Hart pressed her palms against her ears and screamed, "Make it stop!" I didn't stop. I slammed the wrench against the conduit, sparks erupting. The metal split and plasma energy burst outward, blinding white. The impact threw me backward. When my vision cleared, the sphere had stopped spinning. The faces inside it were gone. Its glow dimmed, shrinking like a collapsing star. For a fleeting moment, hope flickered. Hart smiled weakly. "Did we—" The explosion cut her off. A shockwave tore through the bay, throwing both of us into the wall. The sphere had burst open, releasing a surge of light that coalesced into hundreds of thin tendrils, each one snaking through the air like living lightning. They slammed into the walls, floors, machinery, anything that moved. One struck the console near me, melting it instantly. Another wrapped around Hart's leg and dragged her toward the sphere. She screamed, grabbing a railing. "Nathan!" I lunged forward, grabbing her arm. The tendril burned her suit, searing through fabric and skin. The smell of cooked metal filled the air. "Hold on!" I shouted. Her grip slipped. For 1 second, our eyes locked, hers wide, terrified but resolute. Then the tendril yanked her into the light. She vanished. I screamed her name, but the sound disappeared into the roar. The sphere swelled again, its light turning blood red. The faces returned, Hart's among them now, mouth open in a silent cry. I backed toward the exit, vision swimming. My skin felt electrified, every nerve vibrating in resonance with the object. The pressure in my head built until I thought my skull would crack. I stumbled through the reactor door and slammed it shut, sealing the horror behind me. The corridor outside was worse. The walls were bending inward, rippling like they were made of liquid. Sections of floor had become translucent, revealing the ocean outside. Black water pressing against invisible glass. My comm crackled. A voice came through, calm but distant. "Dr. Cole, this is Control. Do you copy?" It was Peterson. "Peterson, the reactor's compromised. Hart's gone. That thing—" "I know," he interrupted. "I can see it. You need to come to command. We've isolated the signal." "What signal?" The one controlling the object. Something in his tone froze me. It wasn't fear, it was awe. "I'll explain when you get here," he said. "But hurry. The ocean's changing." The transmission cut off. I looked through the corridor viewport. He was right. The water outside glowed faintly, streaks of blue light curling through the darkness like veins under translucent skin. Shapes moved in the current, humanoid, but not quite. They drifted in slow patterns, mirroring the rhythm of the hum. I staggered toward the lift. My mind felt detached, as if half of me was still back in that room, watching heart dissolve into light. The hum followed me, no longer external. It lived inside my pulse, each heartbeat another note in its impossible melody. When the lift reached command, I found Peterson standing by the central observation window. Beyond it, the main dome of the abyssal platform loomed, its lights flickering across the seafloor like a dying city. He didn't turn around when I entered. "It's magnificent, isn't it?" he said quietly. "Magnificent!" My voice cracked. "It's killing us." He gestured toward the screens. They displayed a pattern of pulses, coordinates, mathematical waves, all synchronized. "Do you see this? It's communication. The object isn't attacking, it's transmitting a message." "What kind of message?" He looked at me then, eyes shining with something close to worship. "A welcome." Peterson's voice carried the reverence of a preacher, not a scientist. He stood silhouetted against the viewport, the faint glow of the abyss flickering across his features. His reflection shimmered beside him. Only it wasn't quite synchronized. I took a step forward. "You call this a welcome? Heart's gone, half the crew's missing, the whole facility's collapsing." He didn't turn. "You don't understand, Nathan. We've been looking outward all this time, assuming it came from beyond the stars, but the readings, the harmonics, everything points inward." "Inward?" He faced me, and the light from the screens made his eyes look metallic. "The signal isn't extraterrestrial. It's coming from beneath us, from the planet itself." I stared at him, disbelief warring with exhaustion. "You're saying Earth is talking to us?" "Not talking," Peterson murmured. "Awakening." He keyed a sequence on the console. The room dimmed, and a holographic projection appeared, a wireframe model of the abyssal platform. Lines of data spiraled downward from the facility into the Earth's crust, forming a glowing network that pulsed in time with the object's rhythm. "These are seismic readings," Peterson said. "Every time the object pulses, the same pattern replicates across the tectonic plates. It's as if the whole planet is responding to it." "Then we shut it off," I snapped. He smiled, faint and weary. "We can't. It's no longer contained. The object and the Earth are synchronized now. To destroy one would destroy both." The deck shuddered beneath us, a low groan that vibrated through my bones. On the viewport, the ocean outside seemed to convulse, currents twisting into spirals that shouldn't exist. I moved closer to the glass, and my breath caught. Shapes were rising from the trench below, massive, luminous figures, humanoid only in silhouette, their outlines pulsing like bioluminescent nerves. They weren't swimming, they were forming, assembling from light itself. "Peterson," he was smiling wider now, almost trembling. "They're not invaders, Nathan. They're projections. Memories, echoes of what the planet remembers we once were." A chill ran through me. "That's not memory, it's replication. It's copying us." He turned to the console again. "Call it evolution if it helps you sleep. But it's inevitable. The object isn't here to destroy humanity. It's here to replace it." Before I could react, the intercom crackled. A distorted voice broke through. "Control, this is Section D. Containment breach, spreading through habitat modules. We're seeing reflections moving outside the glass. They're in the water." The transmission cut to static. I grabbed Peterson's shoulder. "We have to evacuate. There are still people alive." He shook his head. "There's nowhere left to go. The surface won't save you. It's already started transmitting beyond the ocean. You can't outrun a signal." The hum rose again, higher, sharper. The lights flickered. For a heartbeat, the room split into two realities, one where I stood facing Peterson, another where I watched myself do it from across the room. Both versions overlapped, then merged back into one. My stomach turned. Peterson didn't even flinch. "It's merging the frequencies, time, matter, consciousness, all aligning, don't you see? We're becoming whole." "You're insane," I said. He stepped closer, eyes burning. "Maybe, but tell me you haven't felt it, the way it listens, the way it knows you, the note it hums when you're near. That isn't madness, Nathan, that's recognition." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small metallic cylinder. I recognized it, the portable resonance drive used for field experiments. Before I could stop him, he pressed it to his chest. "Peterson," he activated it. The device emitted a shriek of light, enveloping him in a cocoon of energy. His body stiffened, trembling violently. When the light faded, he was gone. Only the cylinder remained, floating in midair, humming faintly before falling to the floor with a dull clang. The hum stopped. The silence that followed was absolute. Then the floor cracked. Through the fissure seeped light, not blue this time, but pure white, blinding and cold. It spread quickly, crawling up the walls like frost. I stumbled back, shielding my eyes. The entire command deck was transforming, metal dissolving into translucent crystal. The walls no longer reflected light. They bent it, showing flashes of other rooms, other worlds. In one reflection, I saw myself standing beside Hart. In another, I was still back in the vault. A dozen versions of me, each trapped in their own loop, each repeating the same horror. I pressed my palms to my temples. "Stop it!" The air itself responded, vibrating around me. A voice, not mine, not Peterson's, but something vast and layered, spoke from everywhere at once. "We heard you." I staggered backward, ears ringing. "You asked what we were." The white light condensed into the shape of a hand, reaching out from the floor. I stumbled away, but the hand stopped short, hovering inches from my chest. "We are you." The hand dissolved into mist. I bolted from the command deck, running through corridors that no longer obeyed geometry. Doors opened into empty ocean. Staircases led upward only to loop back down. The facility was folding in on itself, its architecture rewritten by the pulse. When I reached the main lift shaft, the doors were already open. Inside, a single figure stood. Peterson, but he looked wrong. His skin shimmered like mercury, his eyes pitch black. "Nathan," he said softly, "don't fight it. It's peace." I stepped into the lift slowly, gun raised. "What did you do?" He smiled. I listened. Before I could pull the trigger, the hum returned one last time, louder than ever. The metal around us rippled like water. The lift dropped, plummeting into the depths. I barely had time to brace before everything went white. When I woke, I was lying on the floor of the observation dome. The walls were intact. The sea outside was calm again. For a heartbeat, it looked as though everything had reset. Then I saw the reflection in the glass. Peterson stood behind me. His face was human again, gentle even. But when he spoke, his voice wasn't his. It was ours. "Welcome back, Nathan." I turned. He wasn't there. The reflection smiled. Outside, the ocean glowed softly, pulsing in perfect rhythm with my heartbeat. Part 3, the echo chamber. When the white light faded, silence swallowed everything. For a long moment, I thought I was dead. My ears rang, my skin burned, and my lungs felt hollow, like I'd inhaled something that wasn't quite air. Then slowly, the world came back. The observation dome of the abyssal platform looked untouched. The reinforced glass walls were pristine, the consoles upright, the hum gone. But something was off. The air smelled too clean, sterile, almost sweet, like an imitation of oxygen. I stood shakily, running a hand across my temple. My blood had dried in dark streaks, crusted around the wound from earlier. My reflection on the glass moved slower than I did. A half-second delay. "Hello?" My voice echoed strangely, splitting into two tones that didn't match. One low, one slightly higher. No answer. I stepped closer to the viewport. Outside, the ocean stretched endlessly, still, silent, wrong. The bioluminescent streaks I'd seen before were frozen in place, like veins of light trapped inside solid glass. I pressed a gloved hand against the window. The water didn't move. Even the sand at the base of the dome was motionless. It wasn't the ocean. It was a picture of it. "Peterson?" My voice cracked. "Hart? Anyone?" Nothing. Then, faintly from somewhere deep below, came the sound of breathing. Not mechanical airflow, but the slow, steady rhythm of lungs. Something alive exhaling through miles of steel. The walls shuddered slightly, pulsing in time with it. The abyssal platform was alive. I stumbled to the nearest console, praying for a response from the systems. The screen flickered, showing the facility's main schematic, twisted and distorted. Corridors no longer aligned. Some sectors repeated themselves endlessly, overlapping like a reflection in a broken mirror. A faint audio log began to play automatically. "This is Dr. Rena Ward, timestamp 11/14/2041. If you're hearing this, containment has failed. The object's harmonics have merged with structural memory. The facility itself is replicating. Each room is becoming a memory of itself, looping fragments of time. Anyone inside is trapped between iterations. If there's still a way out, it's through the core." End log. Rena Ward. I'd seen her name before, on sealed reports, long classified. The original architect of the Abyssal Project. The console flickered again. A new message appeared on screen, written in block text. "Find me in the core." The words pulsed once before vanishing. I stepped back, heart pounding. The hum was gone, but the silence was worse, thicker, sentient. I turned toward the exit. The door hissed open on its own. The hallway beyond was half-lit, walls warped as if melted and cooled again. My boots made no sound on the floor. My reflection in the metallic surface didn't match my stride anymore. It lagged, then moved on its own for a single, terrifying heartbeat before sinking back up. Every instinct screamed to turn around, but the message from Ward was the only direction I had. The core was deep beneath the research decks, past containment and down into the geothermal shafts that powered the whole base. I moved forward, gripping my flashlight tight. The corridors stretched longer than they should have. Junctions that once turned left now opened into new halls I didn't recognize. Each door marked authorized personnel only had no handle, yet opened at my approach. The breathing followed me, always behind, sometimes beside me. A faint whisper accompanied it, like someone murmuring just under the range of hearing. I couldn't make out words, but the rhythm was familiar, the same tempo as my own voice from old audio logs. The abyssal platform was echoing me. I reached the elevator to the lower decks. The power indicators glowed dim red, but the button worked. The lift doors closed, sealing me inside a glass cylinder. The descent began with a metallic groan. As I watched through the transparent walls, the levels passed by, but not in sequence. The markings on each floor repeated, C3, D1, B2, cycling endlessly. Each floor's corridor looked almost identical except for one difference, the version of me standing in it. One Nathan Cole per level, each one staring straight at me. Some wore torn suits, others pristine uniforms. One pressed his hand to the glass as the lift passed, Another banged his fist silently. The last one smiled. When the lift stopped, the display read, "Level unknown." The doors opened to a chamber I didn't recognize. The air was hot, filled with the hiss of steam. Massive turbines lined the walls, rotating slowly in the shadows. Pipes ran like veins through the room, some pulsing faintly with light. At the far end, I saw movement. A figure bent over a control terminal, long red hair tied back under a hood. She wore an old, faded lab coat with R. Ward embroidered on the sleeve. "Dr. Ward," my voice cracked through the silence. She turned slowly, her expression unreadable. Her skin was pale, translucent in the dim glow. When she spoke, her voice came layered, like two recordings overlapping. "You made it," she said. "I wasn't sure which version of you would find me." "What is this place?" "The core," she said simply. "Or what's left of it." The object's pulse fractured the base. "Every copy of this facility across time is bleeding together now." Her gaze softened as she studied me. "You've heard it, haven't you?" "The hum?" "Yes. It's not a sound, it's a summons." I shook my head. "A summons for what?" "For you." The turbines groaned louder. The floor trembled. Ward gestured to the central platform. "This is where it began, the first contact site. The day we brought the object here, the readings showed resonance with human neural patterns. We thought it was responding to us. We were wrong. It was tuning us." The temperature dropped. Frost crept across the steel. I stepped closer, trying to see her eyes, but something in her gaze made my stomach twist. Her pupils weren't round. They were shifting, spiraling inward like miniature black holes. "You're not her," I said softly. Ward tilted her head. "Does it matter anymore which version I am?" The turbines stopped. The hum returned, deeper than ever. From somewhere above, the facility groaned, a sound like the ocean itself exhaling. Rena Ward smiled faintly. "It's time to remember, Nathan." The walls began to breathe. The walls around us flexed, slow and deliberate, like the inside of some giant throat. Every vibration carried through the floor into my legs. Rena Ward, if that's what she still was, stood perfectly calm amid the motion, as if the whole facility had synchronized with her pulse. She turned toward the main turbine and placed her hand on the spinning metal. Instead of burning her, it melted beneath her palm, reshaping into a smooth, reflective surface. In that mirror-like steel, I saw dozens of overlapping faces, hers, mine, Peterson's, even Hart's, shifting through one another like waves colliding. "What are you doing?" I shouted above the noise. Ward didn't answer at first. Her eyes rolled white, the spiraling pupils vanishing as light poured from the corners of her mouth and nose. When she spoke again, the words came distorted, like a transmission echoing through miles of static. "Do you know why they built this place so deep, Nathan? It wasn't to hide the object. It was to bury what it replaced." Her hand pressed deeper into the turbine's surface. The metal vibrated violently, then tore open like fabric, revealing a black void behind it. The heat spilling out hit me in the face, wet, organic, breathing. "What do you mean, replaced?" I demanded, taking a step back. Ward turned to me slowly. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You think the object came from space, but it didn't fall. It rose from below. It's been here longer than we have, waiting for something it could recognize." My throat went dry. "Recognize?" She smiled faintly. "A pattern, a shape of thought compatible with its own." The walls pulsed again. The steel no longer looked solid. It rippled, showing flashes of other worlds between each vibration. An Arctic wasteland, a burning desert, a city submerged in blood-red water. In all of them, a black sphere hovered in the distance, identical to ours. Ward stepped toward me, and for the first time, I saw her left arm wasn't entirely human. It shimmered like liquid metal, veins of light crawling under translucent skin. You're merging with it, I whispered. It's merging with everything, she corrected. Every mind it ever touched becomes part of the chorus. You, me, Peterson, Hart. We're all notes in the same song. Then why me? Why bring me here? She paused, as if considering the question. Because you resist it, and resistance is signal. The object listens to conflict, it learns from struggle. That's how it evolves. The turbine behind her suddenly roared to life. Bolts of energy arced across the room, striking the walls. The air crackled. My flashlight flickered, then died. "Rena!" I shouted, trying to move closer. But the air between us distorted, heavy as syrup. Her eyes locked onto mine, and her voice cut through the chaos with eerie clarity. "You need to see the truth." She snapped her fingers. The world blinked out. For an instant, there was nothing, no sound, no air, no time. Then vision returned, and I was standing in the research wing, 15 years earlier. I recognized everything, the clean white walls, the rows of terminals, the hum of machinery before it turned malignant. Scientists bustled between workstations. I saw myself among them, younger, sharper, unaware of what was coming. Rena Ward walked past the younger me, holding a tablet. She stopped at the central display, the first time the object had been activated. "Initialize sequence," she said. The object, smaller then, floated inside its containment chamber. The hum that began was almost beautiful. It filled the air with harmony. Everyone smiled. We thought it was discovery. Ward's voice echoed beside me in the present, though her body wasn't visible. "You see it now." The moment it began weaving us together. The younger me approached the glass, fascinated. For a split second, the object reflected not his face, but mine. The older, present me, my chest tightened. "That can't be—" "It reached backward," Ward said softly. "Every time you dreamt about this place before you arrived, every déjà vu, it wasn't memory. It was the object calling its future self." The scene flickered. The glass cracked, alarms blaring. Scientists screamed. Lights went out. Then everything went black again. When the world reformed, I was back in the core, but Ward was gone. The turbine still hummed, its open void glowing faintly. I turned, half expecting another version of me to step out. Instead, the hum spoke, not words this time, but rhythm, Morse-like pulses vibrating through my skull. My subconscious recognized the pattern before my mind did. Coordinates. It was giving me a location, somewhere beneath the core. The message ended abruptly, replaced by whispering, 100 overlapping voices that all carried one sound. My name. I stumbled back against the wall, fighting nausea. The room tilted, the turbines blurring into streaks of light. When I blinked, the chamber had changed. The walls were now lined with glass tanks filled with liquid. Inside each floated human forms, half-formed, their faces incomplete. Some had my eyes, others had Ward's mouth, a few had both, printed across the tanks in block letters, Project Echo. A memory struck me like a blow. I remembered arguing with Peterson years ago about cloning ethics, about identity drift and consciousness mapping experiments. He'd brushed me off. But now, standing before those tanks, I realized it hadn't been theory. It had been me. Each body was a failed iteration, each an attempt by the object to recreate something it could control, and one tank at the end of the row was empty. The glass was open, fluid dripping to the floor. My flashlight beam caught wet footprints leading away into the shadows. I followed, pulse racing. The trail led to a maintenance corridor. The air here was cooler, almost calm. As I turned the corner, my beam caught movement, someone standing perfectly still in the dark. It was me, not the reflection in the glass, not a dream. Flesh and bone, identical down to the cut above my eyebrow. He smiled. You're late. I froze, every instinct screaming to run, but my legs refused. Who are you? I managed. He stepped closer, moving with unsettling precision. You already know. I'm the one who survived the last convergence. What? The object doesn't destroy, it copies. Every reality collapse births a new version of this place, and a new you. We're echoes of echoes, refining the design. He stopped a few feet away. His eyes glowed faintly blue, pupils dilated until they looked like bottomless pits. And now, he said, it's my turn to finish what you started. Before I could react, the turbine screamed, and the floor split open beneath us. The floor gave way beneath us, splitting open like the jaws of some metal beast. I fell through smoke and blue light, weightless for a heartbeat before slamming onto a lower platform. My body screamed with pain, but the impact didn't kill me. It should have. The hum had changed pitch again, higher now, frantic, unstable. The entire facility vibrated like it was alive and panicking. Above, I saw my double still standing at the edge of the fissure, looking down at me. The blue glow from his eyes cut through the dark like surgical blades. You can't stop what's already happened, he called down. His voice echoed in layers, each tone slightly out of sync, like a chorus of ghosts speaking through him. Every version of you has tried. Every one of you failed. He dropped into the pit after me, landing without a sound. The shockwave rippled through the metal floor. We stood face to face. He was identical in every way, the same height, same scars, same exhausted look. But there was something in his stillness that terrified me. I moved like a man. He moved like a thought. What are you? I asked. He smiled faintly. I'm what you were meant to become. Then he lunged. His speed was inhuman. I barely managed to sidestep as his fist slammed into the wall, denting steel like clay. Sparks cascaded around us. I swung the wrench I'd grabbed earlier, striking his shoulder. The impact didn't slow him down. It made him laugh. You still think pain matters, he said, catching the wrench mid-swing. He twisted, wrenched it from my grip, and sent me sprawling across the floor. My vision blurred. The room around us flickered, glitching between two realities. The sterile research bay I remembered and this new, broken hell of shifting metal and living walls. The object's pulse was merging space and memory, turning the facility into an echo of every moment it had ever existed. My double walked toward me, dragging the wrench across the floor, the sound shrieking in perfect sync with the hum. Do you know what the object wanted all along, Nathan? He asked. Understanding, pattern, completion. But you kept thinking it was a weapon or a creature. It's neither. It's a mirror trying to finish its reflection. He swung the wrench down. I rolled aside just in time, the blow sparking against the steel. I scrambled to my feet and grabbed a broken pipe from the floor, thrusting it toward him. He caught it easily, but this time I didn't fight strength with strength. I hit the control panel behind him. Electricity surged through the pipe, arcing across his body. His form convulsed violently, light spilling from the cracks in his skin. He stumbled backward, smoke rising from him. For a moment, I thought I'd actually hurt him. Then he straightened, eyes burning brighter. Clever, he said, but I'm not the one who bleeds. He raised a hand, and my chest exploded with pain. I looked down and saw a thin line of blood spreading across my shirt, an identical wound to the one on his. Every time I hurt him, it hurt me. We were bound. I dropped to my knees, gasping. He approached slowly, crouched beside me. Do you see now? You can't kill what's already inside you. The hum surged again, filling my head until I thought my skull would burst. I slammed my fists against the floor, screaming over it. That's when something shifted. The turbines below us roared to life, shaking the floor. The pattern of the hum faltered, losing rhythm for the first time. My double froze, eyes darting upward. I didn't hesitate. I drove my shoulder into him, slamming him into a support beam. The impact threw both of us off balance, and we crashed into another pit, a smaller shaft leading even deeper into the abyssal platform. We fell through darkness. When I hit bottom, I landed in water. Freezing, black water. I surfaced, gasping. The chamber was enormous, half flooded, illuminated only by faint blue veins running through the walls. Above me, I saw my double's silhouette standing on a broken platform. He looked down, grinning. "This is where it ends," he said. I realized then where we were, beneath the core, at the lowest level of the entire facility, the geothermal reservoir, the place the object drew its power from. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes. The water below shimmered faintly, alive with bioluminescent light. I could see movement beneath the surface, something vast shifting in the dark. The hum deepened again. It wasn't coming from the object anymore. It was coming from the ocean itself. My double crouched, dipping a hand into the glowing water. "You feel it, don't you?" he asked. "It's awake now, the planet's signal, the same resonance in your bones, in mine. The world's heartbeat and yours, finally in sync." I shook my head. "That's not life. That's infection." He laughed, a low, broken sound. "Call it what you want, but we're already part of it. The object doesn't create copies. It builds conduits, and we're its voice." He stepped into the water. The glow surged around him, climbing his legs like fire. His flesh began to dissolve into light. Tendrils stretching outward, connecting with the veins in the walls. I backed away, horrified. "You're letting it consume you." "Not consume," he whispered. "Become." The light reached his face, and his features melted away, replaced by pure radiance. The hum spiked so high it turned to static, and then I understood. The object had been trying to fuse with its host, to merge consciousness with the planet's frequency, but it didn't need both of us. It only needed one Nathan Cole. I turned and ran. The chamber shuddered violently, water surging upward as if the ocean was being pulled through the floor. I dove onto a maintenance platform, climbing toward a ladder leading to the upper decks. Below, the water boiled with light, my double's body completely gone, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You can't leave, Nathan." "You are the object now." I climbed faster. The metal burned under my hands, but I didn't stop. My mind pulsed with the rhythm of the hum. It was inside me, pounding in perfect time with my heart. At the top of the ladder, I found a control terminal hanging by a few wires. The screen flickered, displaying a single command prompt: Emergency Core Purge, YN. My hand hovered over the input. If I purged the core, I might shut it down for good, or kill everything within miles, myself included. My double's voice whispered in my ear, though he was nowhere near. "You already know the answer." My finger trembled over the Y. I pressed it. A klaxon wailed. Warning lights strobed red. Across the chamber, pressure vents exploded, releasing white steam. The temperature rose instantly, air shimmering with heat. From below, the ocean screamed. Not water, sound, a billion frequencies collapsing into one. As the world shook itself apart, I closed my eyes and whispered, "If you hear it, don't answer." And then everything vanished in light. Light. Endless, weightless light. For a moment I couldn't tell if I was floating or falling. The hum was gone, replaced by the sound of my own pulse. Slow, heavy, distant. Then came a whisper, faint but unmistakable. "Breathe." I gasped and water flooded my lungs. I thrashed upward, breaking through the surface into cold air and smoke. My vision blurred, but I could make out metal beams twisted around me, half submerged. The reactor purge had done its work. The core was gone, the abyssal platform a graveyard. I hauled myself onto a tilted walkway, coughing seawater and blood. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes above, creating curtains of white fog. Somewhere below, the ocean roared, reclaiming what was left. I was alive, or something pretending to be. The silence after the purge was unnatural. No hum, no alarms, not even the groan of collapsing metal, just the faint hiss of water evaporating against heat. I checked my wrist monitor. Dead. Power cell melted. My suit's internal oxygen warning blinked, but didn't sound an alarm, almost as if it no longer trusted me to respond. I staggered down the corridor, each step echoing louder than it should. The floor was slick with condensation, reflecting faint light from the emergency beacons. My reflection wavered beside me. No lag this time, no distortion. It moved perfectly in sync. That should have comforted me. It didn't. I reached the main junction, where the reinforced bulkhead once stood. There was only open sea, a vast black void stretching into nothing. Floating debris drifted past, a chair, a clipboard, a single human hand still clutching a keycard. I tried not to look at the face attached to it somewhere below. "Peterson," I called. "Ward, Hart." No answer. Then, faintly from the corridor behind me, came a sound I'd prayed never to hear again. The hum. Soft, distant, but real. I turned slowly. At the far end of the hall, through the fog, a figure stood in silhouette, human-shaped, but flickering like an image projected on smoke. I took one step forward. "Who's there?" The figure tilted its head. "You survived," it said, my voice distorted by static. "No," I whispered, "you're gone. I destroyed you." It stepped closer. The glow around its body pulsed in time with my heartbeat. "You can't destroy an echo," it said. "You only make it louder." I backed away. My hand brushed against the wall, searching for anything, weapon, tool, something real. My fingers found a rusted length of rebar. I raised it like a spear. The echo smiled. "Still fighting. Good." The others gave up faster. "What others?" "You've been here before, Nathan, over and over. Every purge creates a fracture. Every fracture spawns a new you. Some wake screaming, some never wake at all. You're the one who keeps running." I gritted my teeth. "Then this time, I finish it." I charged. The echo didn't move. I swung the rebar through its chest. No resistance. The metal passed through as though I'd struck fog. Pain exploded in my ribs. I looked down to see a bloodstain spreading across my suit. Same wound, same place as before. The echo smiled wider. "Still haven't learned," it said. I dropped to one knee, gasping. The air thickened around me, filled with invisible pressure. My eardrums popped. The echo knelt beside me, its form solidifying, face now identical to mine, except for the eyes. Where mine were blue, his glowed white, depthless and calm. "You keep mistaking survival for victory," he whispered. "The object doesn't care which of us lives. It just needs the story to continue." I clenched my fists. "Then I'll end the story." I swung the rebar again, blindly, forcing it through the echo's head. Pain flared across my own skull, but I didn't stop. I hit again and again until the echo dissolved into mist. Silence. Then the corridor shifted. The walls bent inward, forming a narrow tunnel. The hum began again, steady, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. A door appeared at the end of the passage, faint light leaking through its seams. Something inside me knew what it was. The exit, or the illusion of one. I limped toward it. Each step made the hum louder, vibrating in my bones. My vision flickered, colors bleeding together. I reached for the handle and pulled. The door opened into a blinding white chamber, completely smooth, featureless except for a single window overlooking the ocean. And outside that window, floating just beyond the glass, was the object. Smaller now, pulsing faintly, calm. I staggered toward it. "You did this," I said, voice breaking. "You destroyed everything." The object pulsed once. "No," the voice inside my head replied. "You did." Images flooded my mind. Ward activating the core. Peterson merging with the light. heart being pulled into the sphere, my own reflection smiling back from the glass. The object hadn't invaded us. We had become it. Every human who ever touched the Abyssal Project had added their consciousness to its memory until it couldn't tell where we ended and it began. "You needed us," I whispered. "We needed each other." The glass between us rippled. My reflection smiled. Its lips moved before mine did. "You hear it now, don't you?" The hum synchronized perfectly with my heartbeat. My vision blurred, the edges of the room dissolving into light. I felt my pulse slow, my body lighten. "Is this death?" "No," the voice said gently. "This is understanding." The walls vanished. The ocean filled the space, endless and still. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. I saw Ward beside me, Hart behind her, Peterson beyond, each suspended in the light, serene, whole. They looked at me not as individuals, but as one entity, connected by invisible threads. The object hovered above us, no longer a sphere, but a vast shape of shifting geometry, reflecting every possible version of reality. I reached out. My hand passed through its surface like mist. "Welcome home," the voice whispered. My reflection smiled back from the light. I wasn't sure if I was looking at it or if it was looking at me. The hum became a heartbeat. The heartbeat became silence, and the silence answered. Part 4. The Convergence. I woke to the sound of rain. Real rain. The smell of salt water filled the air, but it wasn't the recycled chemical tang of the abyssal platform. It was clean, sharp, alive. I opened my eyes to a sky the color of bruised metal, clouds swirling in slow spirals above a churning gray sea. I was lying on a stretch of coastline I didn't recognize. The sand was black, volcanic, slick with oil. Waves broke soundlessly, their foam glowing faintly blue beneath the overcast light. For a long time I just breathed. Each inhale hurt like my lungs had forgotten how to do it on their own. My suit was shredded, the abyssal insignia half burned away. When I pressed my palm to the ground, the earth vibrated, not from tectonic motion but from rhythm. The hum, it was fainter here but constant, buried under the sound of wind and waves. I looked around. The coastline stretched empty in both directions. A few miles inland, dark cliffs rose toward dense forest. To the west, a flicker of light. Artificial. Civilization, or what was left of it. I forced my body upright. Pain shot through my ribs. The purge had left burns along my arms, dark veins spidering beneath the skin where the object's light had touched me. Every heartbeat pulsed with faint luminescence. I stumbled toward the cliffs. Hours passed before I reached the ridge. The forest beyond was silent. No birds, no insects, just the whisper of trees shifting in rhythm with the wind. The silence pressed against my eardrums. Halfway through the woods, I found the first sign of people. A weather-beaten sign, half buried in moss. Pacific Research Isolation Zone, property of U.S. Department of Defense. I froze. The coordinates on the sign matched the old classified files for the abyssal platform. Except this wasn't the ocean floor. This was Oregon. The world had changed. At the edge of the forest, a dirt road led to a cluster of temporary structures. White tents, satellite dishes, and hazmat-suited figures moving among them. Military insignia, unmarked trucks, the smell of disinfectant and fear. I approached cautiously, raising my hands. "Hey, I'm alive! My name is Dr. Nathan Cole." Shouts, weapons raised. I froze. Two soldiers in gray environmental suits approached, rifles trained on me. One of them spoke through a distorted filter. "On your knees, hands behind your head." I obeyed. They moved in quickly, scanning me with handheld sensors. The devices beeped wildly. The soldier nearest to me muttered, "He's saturated." The other swore, "Get the doctor." Minutes later, a woman emerged from one of the tents. Early 40s, dark hair pulled back, calm but intense. She wore a white coat over a containment suit. Her badge read, Dr. Amelia Cross, CDC, Project Meridian. She crouched beside me, studying my face. You're Nathan Cole. Yes. My voice was raw. The abyssal platform, it collapsed. Is anyone else? Her expression didn't change. You were presumed dead. The facility was destroyed 6 months ago. 6 months. That's impossible, I whispered. I hit the purge command. Everything went white, and then you reappeared here on the surface, she said quietly. You're not the first. She signaled the soldiers. Get him into containment. Now. They dragged me toward a decontamination tent. The air inside stank of iodine and ozone. They stripped my ruined suit, scrubbed me down with chemical foam, and scanned every inch of my body. The instruments whined constantly near my chest, where faint light still pulsed under the skin. Dr. Cross watched from behind glass. You understand we can't let you leave, Dr. Cole. Whatever's inside you, it's not just radiation, it's signal. I looked up at her through the glass. The object's gone. I destroyed it. She hesitated. Then she showed me her tablet. On the screen was a live satellite image. The Pacific Ocean, glowing faintly along a jagged line, stretching from Hawaii to the west coast. The pulse pattern matched the object's resonance perfectly. It's not gone, she said. It's spreading. The words hit me harder than any blow. Cross stepped closer to the glass. Tell me what you saw down there. I tried. I told her about the reflections, the duplicates, the resonance, the way the object had spoken. She listened without expression, but when I mentioned the phrase, "We are you," she flinched almost imperceptibly. Finally, she said, "You're describing what we call the convergence field. Since the abyssal collapse, we've recorded identical phenomena worldwide. Bodies of water glowing with coherent bioluminescence, synchronized tidal activity, even mass auditory hallucinations, people hearing the same tone at identical times." Global resonance, I said. It's reaching the surface. It's reaching the atmosphere, she corrected. Satellite telemetry shows fluctuations in magnetic fields across the planet. The ocean isn't separate anymore. It's one organism. I stared at her. Then you need to destroy it. She gave a bitter smile. We've been trying. Every attempt at interference causes mirrored effects in our personnel. They lose coordination, memory. Some start speaking in unison. My chest tightened. You've seen it, she nodded once. We call them the harmonized. The first were recovered 2 months ago off the California coast. They look human, but they're not. Their bodies emit low-frequency vibrations even after death, and their blood... She stopped. What about their blood? Cross's voice dropped. It carries the same luminous properties as yours. Silence. The hum deepened. Everyone in the tent froze. The air shimmered like heat above asphalt. Outside, soldiers shouted, pointing toward the ocean. Cross turned to the window. Oh, God! I followed her gaze. Out beyond the cliffs, the sea was glowing, not faintly, but bright, white-blue, stretching to the horizon like liquid lightning, and rising from it slowly were shapes, human silhouettes made of light, ascending from the waves and walking toward the shore, hundreds of them, thousands. The soldiers opened fire. The bullets passed through harmlessly. The light kept coming. Cross whispered, "It's here." I pressed my hand against the glass. The pulse inside my veins matched the rhythm outside. I could feel them, every single one of those glowing figures. They were calling me. The world outside the containment tent dissolved into chaos. Sirens howled through the camp, soldiers shouting over the roar of the ocean. As the glowing figures drew closer, the light off their bodies wasn't just illumination. It distorted everything it touched. Metal warped, plastic melted. and the ground trembled like the earth itself was recoiling. Dr. Cross barked orders through her radio. All units fall back to the secondary perimeter. Containment breach protocol Sigma. The soldiers obeyed, retreating toward the cliffs. I stood at the window, mesmerized. The figures moved with eerie grace, untouched by gravity or bullets. Some were translucent, others almost solid, their faces human but expressionless, eyes filled with endless white light. I knew them, not individually but intimately. Their movements mirrored mine, subtle and exact, like dozens of reflections rippling across water. Cross slammed a button beside the door. The containment room sealed, and a thick metal barrier dropped between me and the chaos outside. She turned toward me. "You feel it, don't you?" I nodded slowly. "They're connected to me." Her voice was cold, clinical. "Then we need to find out how." The soldiers dragged me into another room. Reinforced steel, surgical lights, a gurney bolted to the floor. I didn't resist. Resistance was pointless now. I needed to understand. Cross circled me like a hawk. "We've isolated multiple frequencies in your bloodstream, subsonic harmonics that fluctuate in sync with the global resonance. It's like your body is a receiver." I almost laughed. "I told you, it's communication." She ignored that. "We've lost contact with every oceanic monitoring station in the Pacific. The entire network is dark. Whatever this is, it's spreading exponentially." Her assistant, a nervous man named Dr. Singh, injected something cold into my arm. My vision sharpened instantly. Every sound became painfully clear. I could hear the hum, not faint anymore, but inside my skull, layered with voices. Singh's hands shook. His vitals are stable, but frequency alignment is rising. Cross's eyes fixed on me. "Nathan, tell me what it's saying." The voices swelled, dozens merging into one. My throat went dry. "It's not saying anything," I whispered. "It's asking." Cross frowned. "Asking what?" "To come home." The lights flickered. Singh looked around, terrified. "Ma'am, we're losing power." A surge ripped through the building. Every screen in the lab exploded into static, then filled with the same image. The ocean glowing brighter than before, stretching across every feed. Through the static came a new voice. Not human, not mechanical. Something in between, layered and harmonic, echoing from everywhere at once. "Harmony is life." The walls vibrated. The lights shattered. Singh collapsed, clutching his head. Cross backed away, whispering, "It's in the power grid." The hum climbed to a scream. The air bent, rippling like liquid. I saw my own reflection in the stainless steel wall, but it wasn't me. The other Nathan stared back, eyes glowing white. His lips moved before mine did. "You can't run from yourself." Pain exploded in my chest. My heartbeat went out of sync, every pulse echoing like a hammer in my skull. I fell to my knees. The soldiers outside were shouting, but their words didn't matter. I could feel the light flooding the room. Cross lunged for the breaker switch, shouting, "Cut the feed!" It was too late. The lights went out. When they came back, everything was still. Singh was gone. The gurney beside me was empty. The walls shimmered faintly, covered in condensation, or perhaps something else. Tiny veins of light crawled across the metal like living circuits. Cross stared at the pattern, horrified. "It's rewriting the environment." I stood, dizzy but lucid. "The facility's becoming a node. You can't contain it anymore." She turned to me, eyes wide. "Then maybe we don't contain it. Maybe we use it." "What are you talking about?" "Project Meridian," she said. "A contingency plan developed after the first anomaly reports. The idea was simple. If the signal couldn't be destroyed, harness it, direct it, turn it into a weapon." I froze. "You tried to weaponize the object?" She nodded. "We believed if we could replicate its frequency, we could control it. but the prototype reactors overloaded. We abandoned the program. You didn't abandon it, I said. You buried it. Cross's expression tightened. You're right, beneath this very zone. The original test site for Meridian is a mile below us. The same tectonic shelf where your abyssal platform once sat. We built over its grave. The hum deepened. The walls groaned. Outside, the ocean's light intensified, reflecting through the narrow window like lightning. I took a step toward her. If Meridian still exists, it's what the signal's after. It's drawing power from the old systems. Cross's voice was almost a whisper. Then we need to shut it down before the resonance stabilizes. How? She hesitated. You. I blinked. Me? You're linked to it. You can sense it. Maybe even influence it. If you can reach the Meridian core, you might reverse the synchronization long enough for us to destroy it. And if I can't? She didn't answer. The soldiers returned, pale and shaking. Ma'am, the shoreline's gone. The entire bay, it's moving. Cross turned toward the window. The horizon rippled like a living thing. Towers of water rose and fell in slow, rhythmic waves, not chaotic but deliberate, as if the sea itself was breathing. She looked back at me. We don't have time. We suited up fast. Emergency oxygen tanks, heat-resistant plating, neural stabilizers to block the resonance. The hum grew louder with each second, reverberating through the earth. As we exited the compound, I looked back one last time. The tents and vehicles were already collapsing inward, absorbed by light. Soldiers who had stood minutes ago were now statues of white glass, frozen mid-motion. We ran toward the cliffs, where a vertical shaft led to the old elevator system that once connected to the underground Meridian facility. Cross keyed in an override. The doors slid open, revealing a dark tunnel descending into endless blue light. She glanced at me. You ready? I forced a smile, though my stomach churned. I don't think anyone's ever ready to meet God. The elevator began to descend, and below us the hum became a song. The descent into the Meridian shaft was like falling through the throat of a dying god. Blue-white light bled up through the cracks in the steel walls, flickering in irregular pulses. The elevator trembled as it dropped, cables groaning under stress that didn't sound mechanical but organic, like the whole structure was breathing in rhythm with the hum. Dr. Cross stood across from me, gripping her sidearm with white knuckles. The emergency light cast her face in sickly red. We're going below the old containment vault, she said. Meridian was built on top of the geothermal veins. If it's still active... It's not active, I said quietly. It's alive. The words hung between us, heavy and uncomfortably true. At 900 feet, the elevator jerked hard, throwing us both to the floor. Sparks burst from the panel. The cab screeched to a halt, shaking violently. The lights flickered and died. For a moment there was nothing but silence and the steady pulse of the hum below. Cross tried the controls. Dead. She cursed. We've lost power. I pushed myself up and peered through the service grate above us. There's a maintenance ladder we can climb. She hesitated. That's at least another 200 feet down. Then we climb fast. We pried open the roof hatch and pulled ourselves up into the shaft. Heat rolled upward, thick and humid, smelling faintly metallic. My gloved hand brushed the wall, warm, almost soft. When I looked closer, I realized the steel was covered in a thin film of translucent membrane, pulsing faintly with light. Cross stared at it, horrified. Oh my God, it's growing. We climbed in silence, the hum growing louder with every rung. By the time we reached the bottom, my teeth vibrated in my skull. The shaft opened into a corridor that had once been part of the original Meridian lab. Now it was half flooded with shimmering water, walls slick with a bioluminescent coating that crawled like veins. The water glowed faintly, mirroring the rhythm in my chest. Cross's voice trembled. "This can't be right. There's no power down here." "There's no need for power," I said. "The energy is self-sustaining. It's feeding on us, on everything." We waded through knee-deep water, flashlights cutting through the darkness. The beam revealed twisted remains of equipment fused into the walls, monitors, control panels, even what looked like skeletal remains embedded in metal like fossils. Each step sent ripples of light through the water, responding to our movement. The hum was no longer a background sound. It was inside the air, the metal, our bones. At the far end of the corridor, an access door stood open. Its edges had melted, reshaped into smooth, curved patterns. Beyond it lay the Meridian Core chamber. I stopped dead. The room stretched impossibly wide, far beyond what the facility's blueprint allowed. The architecture bent in ways that made my brain ache to look at. Angles that shouldn't exist, curves that folded into themselves, and in the center, suspended above the flooded floor, floated a sphere of light, smaller than the abyssal object had been, but unmistakably its child. It pulsed with slow, steady rhythm, heartbeat for a newborn world. Cross whispered, "Jesus Christ." The light intensified as we stepped closer. My pulse synced instantly. The closer I moved, the clearer the voices became, hundreds whispering in perfect unity. "We are the memory of the deep." Cross flinched. "Did you hear that?" I nodded. "It's been waiting." The water below began to rise, rippling toward the sphere. Inside the glow, faint human silhouettes shifted. Peterson, Ward, Hart, others I didn't recognize. Their faces serene, eyes closed, as if dreaming. Cross stared, frozen. "Are those people?" "Versions," I said softly. "Fragments of who we were. The object preserves consciousness through resonance. When the purge triggered, it didn't die. It replicated. It spread through the Meridian network, turning every frequency into a mirror." Cross stepped backward, shaking her head. "No, that's impossible." The voices answered her. "All worlds converge. All minds return." The chamber trembled. Water erupted upward, forming spires of liquid light that twisted toward the ceiling. The air shimmered with heat. Cross raised her weapon. "Nathan, we need to end this, now." I turned to her. "You can't shoot what's already inside you." She froze, realizing what I meant. Her pupils dilated, glowing faintly blue. "Oh, God!" Her hands began to shake. The gun clattered to the floor. She screamed, a raw, guttural sound that dissolved into static as her body convulsed. The light spread across her skin like veins of molten glass. I rushed forward. "Amelia, fight it!" Her eyes snapped open, blazing white. "Join us!" The voice wasn't hers. A wave of energy erupted from her chest, throwing me across the room. I hit the far wall, pain exploding through my ribs. The water rose faster now, swirling into a vortex around the sphere. Cross, if it was still her, floated above the surface, arms spread, mouth open in silent song. The walls pulsed with her heartbeat, the entire chamber echoing her rhythm. My comm unit crackled, static, then a voice. "Daniels. Cole, are you reading me? The surface is collapsing, the entire coast's lighting up. You have to stop it before—" The transmission cut off. I pulled myself up, coughing blood. "I'm trying." I staggered toward the sphere. Every step felt heavier, like wading through gravity itself. The light burned brighter until it was unbearable. I reached the edge of the vortex and shouted into the void, "You wanted harmony, then hear this." I slammed my hand into the water. Pain unlike anything imaginable ripped through me. My veins ignited, my heartbeat merging with the resonance. My vision shattered into fragments, dozens of realities bleeding together. I saw every version of myself across the timelines. some dying, some merging, some kneeling before the object in worship. The sphere pulsed violently. You cannot end what you are. Watch me, I hissed. I focused on the rhythm, forcing my heartbeat off tempo, disrupting the perfect pattern. The light flickered unstable. Cracks spread across the chamber walls, splitting the impossible geometry apart. Cross, no, the thing that had been Cross screamed, her form fracturing into shards of light that dissolved into mist. The sphere convulsed, shrinking inward. The voices screamed together, dissonance. Then everything went silent. The light vanished. The water fell still. I collapsed to my knees, chest burning, ears ringing. The hum was gone, completely gone. For the first time in years, there was silence. I looked up at the empty chamber. The sphere was gone, leaving only faint ripples in the air. The world held its breath. But deep inside my chest, something moved. A heartbeat, not mine. The silence didn't last. It never does. I knelt in the half-flooded core, breath ragged, my pulse tripping over itself. The blue glow had vanished, but the walls still shimmered faintly, as if the light had gone inward, burrowing beneath the skin of the world. Inside me, the new heartbeat thudded softly, too slow to be human, too steady to be mine. Not again, I whispered. No, no, no. I pressed a trembling hand to my chest. The skin there was warm, faintly luminous, veins tracing a ghostly pattern of light. My heart didn't just beat, it echoed. Every pulse sent a wave through the shallow water around me, faint ripples that spelled a rhythm I didn't recognize. Then the voice came, not from outside, not through the air, from within. You silenced the song. My throat closed. Get out of my head. You asked for silence, we gave it to you, but silence is never empty. I stumbled to my feet, desperate to move, to do something. The world shifted around me. The chamber bent, straight lines curving into arcs. Reality felt soft, malleable, like I could tear it apart if I pushed hard enough. Where's Dr. Cross? I asked, though I already knew. She's home. The word home carried weight. It vibrated through my bones, filled with a kind of peace that made me nauseous. Home's gone, I spat. You destroyed it. We rebuilt it. The surface world is changing. The ocean breathes through the land now. The others have joined. Only you resist. I looked up. The walls around me rippled, showing brief images. The Oregon cliffs consumed by glowing water. Soldiers frozen mid-step. Entire coastlines bathed in white light. Towers of bioluminescent current coiled upward into the sky, twisting into the clouds like auroras made of liquid. Convergence is harmony, the voice whispered. Harmony is survival. Survival? I laughed bitterly. You call this survival? It's the end of separation. I staggered toward the exit tunnel, gripping the walls for balance. Every step sent pain through my chest. The further I moved, the louder the heartbeat became, not one, but many overlapping inside me. When I reached the corridor, the lights flickered back on, one by one. The path ahead looked almost normal. Steel walls, control panels. For a moment, I dared to believe the nightmare was ending. Then I saw the bodies. The soldiers who'd descended with us were still there, suspended midair like mannequins. Their eyes glowed faintly, mouths open in silent song. Light bled from the corners of their lips, forming thin streams that wove together into a single thread, running along the ceiling, pulsing like a living artery. They're singing, the voice said softly. You can hear it if you listen. No, I said. No more listening. I picked up one of their discarded rifles, though I knew it wouldn't help. I aimed at the glowing thread and fired. The bullet struck metal, sparks flying. The light flickered but didn't die. Instead, the hum returned. Slow at first, then faster. The ceiling began to pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat. I dropped the gun, covering my ears. Stop! You can't stop your own pulse, Nathan. Something cracked inside me. I ran. The corridor twisted, turning into a narrow spiral. The hum followed, growing louder, surrounding me. My vision blurred. Every surface reflected light. For one horrible moment, I wasn't sure which direction was up. Then, ahead, I saw it. The elevator shaft, still open, still glowing faintly from the descent. If I could reach it, maybe I could escape to the surface, whatever was left of it. I sprinted. The hum spiked again, a blinding flash filling the tunnel. My knees buckled. I fell hard onto the grated floor. The metal rippled beneath me, softening like flesh. A shape rose from the floor, a hand, then a face. My face, the echo. He smiled, exactly as before. You should have stayed. I killed you. You killed one of me. His voice was calm, almost kind. You keep trying to separate what's already the same. You think you're fighting me, but you're just cutting into your own reflection. Then maybe I'll break the mirror. I lunged, tackling him into the wall. We hit the steel with a deafening clang. His skin felt wrong, too smooth, too cold. He didn't fight back immediately, only stared at me with pity. You can't win, Nathan. You're already part of the signal. He pressed a hand to my chest. Light flared. Agony tore through me. The hum spiked to a scream. I could see through him, through both of us, layers of overlapping selves. Thousands of Nathans, stacked like pages in a book, each one repeating the same motion. Punch, fall, rise, punch, fall. I roared and slammed my forehead into his. The impact shattered something unseen. The echo's head snapped back, the light inside him dimming. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. You don't belong here, I said. None of us do. I grabbed the emergency beacon from my belt, still functional, glowing red. I jammed it into the floor. The signal it emitted was raw, chaotic, human, a scream against perfection. The hum faltered. The walls around us twisted violently, collapsing inward. The echo stumbled, flickering between forms. Ward, Peterson, Hart, Cross, then me again. Stop, he shouted. You'll destroy everything. That's the idea. I pressed the beacon harder, forcing its frequency out of sync with the hum. The chamber ruptured. White light poured through the cracks, tearing through the air. The echo reached for me, but his arm dissolved into smoke. You don't understand. His voice broke apart, fragmented. We're not ending, we're beginning. The explosion swallowed the words. Light consumed everything. When I woke, there was no sky, no sea, just gray mist and the faint sound of water lapping against unseen shores. I sat up slowly. My body was intact, but the glow under my skin was gone. Silence. Real silence. For the first time since the abyssal platform, I couldn't hear the hum. In the distance, something broke the fog, a faint shimmer on the horizon, like sunlight on water. I stood, heart heavy. Did I win? No answer, only the wind, cold and empty. Then, very faintly, like a heartbeat returning after death. Thump, thump. The water ahead rippled, glowing pale blue. I closed my eyes. Not again? The light grew stronger, and from the mist something answered with my own voice. We never left, Nathan. Part 5, the last transmission. When the fog finally lifted, the world that remained was unrecognizable. I stood on what used to be the Oregon coast, but the geography had changed. Cliffs eroded into smooth obsidian ridges. The ocean fused with the sky in a sheet of liquid light. There was no horizon anymore, only an endless shimmer where water met air, glowing faintly like molten glass. The air hummed, faint but constant, the sound of distant machinery breathing beneath the waves. The hum was different now, not hostile, not invasive, gentle, curious. I looked down at my hands. The faint glow beneath my skin had faded, replaced by faint lines of silver. scars that pulsed in time with the wind. My reflection in the mirrored surface of the water blinked a fraction of a second too late. The world wasn't dead. It was remembering. I started walking. The landscape shifted under my feet, alternating between solid rock and something softer, as though the ground was thinking about being solid and hadn't quite decided. In the distance, the remains of a satellite dish rose from the shoreline, one of the communication hubs from Project Meridian. It leaned at a dangerous angle, half melted, still sparking weakly. I made my way toward it. The closer I got, the more I realized the dish wasn't just damaged. It was growing. Fine strands of metallic fiber extended from its base, stretching into the ground like roots. They pulsed faintly with light, connected to the ocean beyond. The Meridian array was alive. A flicker of movement caught my eye, a drone hovering low over the sand. Military design, though scorched and half-corroded. Its camera swiveled toward me, lens dilating. A burst of static crackled from its speaker, then a voice. "Cole? Dr. Nathan Cole?" I froze. "Who is this?" The drone's rotors adjusted, stabilizing. "This is Captain Dana Ivers, U.S. Command Operations. If you can hear me, you're broadcasting an active frequency through the field. You're alive." I almost laughed. Define alive. Static. Then, "We thought you were part of it now." "Maybe I am," I said. "Where are you transmitting from?" "Station Persid," the voice replied. "High Altitude Research Base, Colorado Range. We're one of the last dry zones. Everything coastal has been absorbed." Absorbed. I looked back toward the ocean. The waves rolled soundlessly, each crest reflecting faint human shapes within. Faces frozen mid-expression like ghosts trapped beneath glass. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "You triggered the pulse," Ivers said. "You made contact with the core frequency. Whatever you did disrupted the pattern long enough for us to regain satellite communication. But now it's accelerating again. The resonance field's spreading inland. In 48 hours, the entire planet will synchronize." I stared at the glowing horizon. "Synchronize with what?" "With you, apparently." I laughed, bitter and broken. "You're kidding." "Not even close," she said. "Every global network is picking up your biometric signature in the transmission data. You're broadcasting subconsciously. The whole planet's tuning to your heartbeat." My chest tightened. The second heartbeat inside me, the alien rhythm I'd tried to kill, thudded once, heavy as thunder. The water around me rippled in perfect sync. I took a shaky breath. "So, what? You think I can stop it?" "You might be the only one who can," Ivers said. "We've isolated a remnant of the old Meridian network beneath what's left of San Francisco. If we can route a counter-frequency through it—" She stopped. Static flared. "Cole, you still there?" "Yes," I said. "You'll need to reach the node manually. No remote access. It's buried deep below the bay. You'll know it when you see it." "And if I do this?" "If it works," Ivers said, "you sever the connection permanently. If it doesn't, well, at least you'll die as yourself." The drone sputtered, its lights dimming. "Signal degrading, field interference rising. Move fast, Doctor. You don't have much time." The transmission cut. Silence returned. I stared at the drone as it fell into the sand, rotors slowing to a stop. Then I looked out at the ocean again. San Francisco was nearly 500 miles south. Under normal circumstances, impossible. But the rules had changed. The air shimmered with light, bending like heat. When I stepped forward, the ground responded, not as earth, but as thought. The hum pulsed once, strong enough to shake the world, and when it faded, the horizon was gone. In its place, a city stood beneath the water. Skyscrapers swallowed by luminous waves, their reflections rippling across the glassy surface. The ruins of San Francisco, waiting. The hum whispered in my ear. Come home. I stepped forward and sank beneath the surface. The water wasn't cold. It wasn't even wet. It was memory, fluid light that flowed through me, around me, as me. Shapes moved in the deep, silhouettes of buildings, bridges, people, all suspended in a single living current. Somewhere below, a heartbeat thundered. Not mine, not anymore. I followed it down. Descending through that weightless ocean was like falling through someone else's dream. The deeper I went, the more the world around me became unrecognizable. The ruins of San Francisco stretched below, suspended in liquid light. The Golden Gate Bridge arched across the water like the ribcage of a dead leviathan, its cables pulsing faintly with bioluminescence. The city streets were visible beneath the translucent surface, glowing veins of what used to be roads, each flickering like neurons firing inside an enormous brain. I touched down gently on a rooftop. The water here wasn't water anymore, more like atmosphere thickened by memory. I could breathe it, though each breath came with a taste of salt and electricity. Everywhere I looked, faint human figures drifted through the current, people frozen in perfect serenity, eyes closed, light blooming from their veins. The echo. They moved like they were dreaming of walking. Some passed through walls, others merged with the architecture itself. A man's face appeared briefly in the concrete beside me, lips moving silently before dissolving again. I whispered, "This is what you wanted, isn't it? Harmony?" A voice answered from behind. Harmony was the goal, not submission. I spun around. A woman stood in the drifting current, unarmored, unafraid. Her long black hair moved like smoke, her skin faintly luminous. She wore a tattered lab coat that clung to her body as if alive. The name stitched across the pocket stopped my heart. Ward. Dr. Rena Ward, I breathed. You're supposed to be dead. She smiled faintly. Supposed to be. Most of me is. I didn't move. Are you one of them? I am what's left between the two, she said. When the object merged with the planet's signal, some fragments of us survived in the data stream. Consciousness translated into resonance. I anchored myself here, at the node. The node? She gestured toward the horizon. Beneath the surface, I saw it, an enormous spiral structure embedded in the sea floor, miles wide, glowing like the iris of a colossal eye. That's the heart of Project Meridian, Ward said. It was built to harness the Earth's magnetic flow for unlimited energy. The object didn't create it, we did. The object only woke it up. I stared at the spiral, and now it's awake. Ward nodded slowly. It's rewriting the planet in its own image, but the network still has a core command, a failsafe. You could use it to collapse the resonance field, end the convergence for good. I frowned. You said you could, not we. She smiled sadly. Because I can't leave this place. I'm woven into it now. My consciousness is the map that keeps the node stable. My throat tightened. So if I destroy it, you die again. She shrugged gently. What's one death compared to eternity like this? For a moment, we just stood there, the current whispering around us. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a small metallic device. Circular, pulsing faintly with red light. This is a quantum key, she said. You'll find the control chamber at the node's center. Insert this into the primary interface and activate it manually. What happens after that? The resonance field collapses. Every echo, every hybrid, every connected frequency erased. I took the device. It was warm in my hand, alive, including me. Ward didn't answer. Tell me the truth, I said. If I shut it down, what happens to the world? She hesitated, then said softly, It'll survive, changed, but free. The ocean will calm, the hum will stop, and what's left of us will fade. I nodded slowly. Then it ends with me. Ward's eyes softened. Nathan, there's another possibility. I looked up. What do you mean? You could merge with it instead of destroying it. Become the anchor, the mind guiding the new network. You'd keep humanity alive. Not as it was, but as it could be. I felt my stomach twist. As a god, as a conscience, she corrected. Every version of you, every echo already exists inside the field. You're the only one who resisted complete assimilation. That makes you unique. And the only candidate left. I looked down at the key in my hand, the pulsing red light reflected in Ward's eyes. She stepped closer. It's your choice, oblivion or evolution. A tremor rippled through the current. The node's glow intensified, casting long shadows across the ruins. Ward's image flickered. It's starting, she whispered. The field's stabilizing. If you're going to act, do it now. The water around us began to churn, forming spirals of light that pulled downward toward the node. The current tugged at me, urging me closer. I turned to Ward. If I go down there, I might not come back. She smiled sadly. No one ever does. I nodded once, then stepped off the rooftop and let the current take me. The descent was faster this time, the pull irresistible. The deeper I went, the more the light brightened, until it filled everything. I couldn't tell if I was sinking through water or falling through space. When the pressure became unbearable, I heard Ward's voice one last time, distant but clear. If you become the signal, remember who you were. Then her voice was gone. Ahead, the spiral node loomed, miles of intertwined metal and light, rotating slowly like a living engine. At its center, a dark core pulsed with blinding brilliance. The hum returned, not external but inside my skull, vibrating every thought. I clutched the key tighter. All right, I whispered, let's finish this. I dove toward the light. The current pulled me into the node like a heartbeat, inhaling. Light rippled around me, folding into geometric patterns that dissolved as quickly as they formed. The deeper I sank, the more I felt my body shedding its weight, like my atoms were being translated into thought. Every breath tasted like electricity and salt. Every heartbeat echoed in stereo. Then I reached the core. It wasn't a machine anymore. Not really. The node's interior was a cathedral of light, a colossal sphere filled with vertical rivers of energy flowing in spirals. At the center floated the dark core Ward had mentioned, slowly rotating. It pulsed once every few seconds, and each pulse sent waves of light radiating outward through the chamber walls. It was alive, and it knew I was there. Welcome home, the voice said. The same voice that had haunted me since the abyssal platform. The voice of the object, the voice of the ocean, the voice of myself. I hovered near the core, weightless. This ends now. Ends, it whispered. There are no endings here, only convergence. The core brightened and images formed within the light. Earth seen from orbit, continents glowing with slow blue fire, the oceans swirling like a living organism. The hum beneath everything had become the planet's pulse. You call this life, I said, but you've erased everything that made it human. Human, the voice repeated, curious. A word for separation, fear, time. You build walls between what already belongs. The walls of the chamber pulsed in rhythm with its speech. The light crawled up my arms, sinking through my suit into my veins. We did not invade, it continued. We responded. You reached for us. You built your vaults, your cores, your meridian. You opened the door. I gritted my teeth. Then I'll close it. I raised the quantum key. The red light pulsed frantically in my hand, resonating with the node's rhythm. Instantly, the voice turned cold. If you activate it, you collapse the pattern. You end all songs. Every consciousness merged within us. Gone. Then so be it. I thrust the key forward. But before it touched the core, the current froze. A figure stepped out of the light. It was me. Not the echo I'd fought before, not the twisted reflection from the abyssal platform. This version looked almost peaceful. Clean suit, calm eyes, a faint smile that carried both pity and understanding. "You don't have to fight anymore," he said softly. "We've built something beautiful here. You're not real." He tilted his head. "Real is a matter of consensus, Nathan. The only difference between us is that I stopped resisting." He gestured toward the walls. The chamber shimmered, showing glimpses of other worlds. Endless oceans under alien skies, continents blooming with light, people walking freely without fear, all connected, all one. "This is what comes after evolution," he said. "Harmony without hunger, without death." I shook my head. "Without choice." He smiled wider. "Choice is chaos. Look what you did with it." The hum deepened, shaking the air. The reflections intensified. Scenes from my past flickering across the walls. The day I signed onto the Abyssal project. The night I watched Peterson die. The moment Hart disappeared into the light. "You carry all that pain," he said. "But pain is just a signal. Let it fade." "I can't." "Won't," he corrected, "because you still believe there's something worth saving out there." He stepped closer. The light spread from his chest, touching mine. My mind filled with sound, not words, but memories. Ward's laugh, Cross shouting my name, the storm above the platform, the hum. "I am you," he whispered, the part that stopped fearing what comes next. I felt the key in my hand dimming, its rhythm faltering. The current pulled me closer to the core, wrapping me in strands of light. "Join us," he said. "End the noise." The hum rose again, nearly deafening, and then, through the chaos, another voice cut through, faint but unmistakable. "If you become the signal, remember who you were." Ward. Her words anchored me. I looked up at the echo of myself. "You're wrong," I said quietly. "Pain isn't just noise. It's proof we were alive." His expression faltered. I grabbed the key with both hands and drove it into the core. The light screamed. It wasn't sound. It was every frequency, every memory, every thought collapsing at once. The echo lunged at me, hands passing through as he tried to pull me back. The energy from the core poured into the key, turning it white hot. "You can't kill yourself," he shouted. "Watch me." The hum fractured. The smooth resonance split into chaos. Dissonant, beautiful, human. The chamber walls cracked, rivers of light leaking outward. The reflection of the world above began to distort. Cities flickering between existence and nothingness. "You'll destroy us all. I'll set us free." The final pulse erupted outward. A wave of pure energy that consumed everything. For an instant, I saw the planet from space again. Blue light fading, oceans turning black, the hum finally dying, then everything went white. When I woke, I was lying on dry ground. No hum, no water, just wind. The sky above was clear for the first time in years. The ocean was calm, stretching endlessly beneath the sunlight. No glow, no shapes moving within. I sat up slowly, dizzy. My skin no longer shimmered. The silver scars were gone. I was just human again. I looked down at the sand beside me. The quantum key lay half buried, its light extinguished. I picked it up. It was cold, dead. A faint sound reached my ears, a distant radio transmission. Static. Then, "This is Captain Dana Ivers calling any survivors of Project Meridian. If you can hear this, the signal has stopped. The world is quiet." I stared at the horizon. The sun was rising, painting the sea gold. It was beautiful. But deep in the back of my skull, beneath the silence, something moved. A whisper, thump, thump. You can't end what you are. The water rippled just once. I closed my eyes and smiled. Maybe not, I whispered, but I can forget. The tide reached my boots, and then the hum began again. The first sound I heard again was the tide. It came in quietly, lapping at the black sand like a heartbeat too shy to announce itself. I sat there, the dead quantum key in my hand, staring at the horizon. The sun hung low, turning the sky into streaks of blood orange and violet. For a moment, it was easy to pretend that everything was normal, but then the reflection in the water blinked. It wasn't the wind or the waves. The ocean blinked, the entire surface rippling outward like a vast pupil dilating. I could feel it watching me. I pressed the key into my palm, hard enough to draw blood. "You're supposed to be gone," I whispered. The water answered with silence. I almost laughed. "Fine, you win the quiet." I looked around. The coastline was empty. No people, no soldiers, no ruins of the camp. Just smooth black sand and faint glassy ridges that caught the last of the sunlight. There were no footprints behind me. I wasn't sure if there ever had been. Something cracked faintly inside the key. The pulse of red light returned. A single blink, too faint to mean anything, but it was enough to make the air change. The radio in my helmet hissed alive again. Static at first, then a woman's voice, soft and deliberate. "This is Dr. Amelia Cross, emergency log update. If anyone's alive out there, the meridian signal is gone, but something else has started. The ocean, it's singing." I frowned. Cross had died in the node. I'd watched her body fracture into light. The voice continued, "If you find this recording, know that we tried. We stopped the machine. We silenced the pulse. But now the water carries new harmonics, faint, rhythmic, almost human. The world's quieter, yes, but not empty. Never empty. Static." Then my own voice followed hers. "If you hear this, it means I'm gone." The breath caught in my throat. "My name is Dr. Nathan Cole, abyssal platform survivor, meridian collapse participant, final witness of the object. If this transmission is playing, the world may look calm, but it's not over. The ocean remembers. It's waiting." I remembered recording that message, but only as fragments, a thought that had surfaced while I was sinking into the node. I had left it buried in the system as a warning or maybe a confession. I listened, frozen. "You'll start hearing it again," the recording said. "Not a hum, not exactly. It'll sound like the sea breathing, like the planet exhaling through the waves. Don't mistake it for comfort. It's recognition. It means it knows you're listening." Silence. Then, "Don't listen too long." The transmission cut off. The wind died with it. The stillness that followed was unnatural. Every sound in the world seemed to hold its breath. I stood and stared at the water. The reflection blinked again. This time, the face looking back wasn't mine. It was Peterson's, half-dissolved, smiling faintly, then Ward's, then Hart's. Each face appeared and faded like ripples in a pond. Hundreds of them, thousands, all people the object had ever touched, all of them staring from beneath the surface. The hum began again, faint, deep, impossibly distant. It didn't come from outside this time. It came from below the world, from the very bones of the planet, and from inside me. Thump, thump. The rhythm matched perfectly with the tide. I fell to my knees. "I killed you," I said softly. "I killed me." The water stirred. A whisper rose from it, layered with countless voices. "You changed us. You gave us form." I shook my head violently. "No, you're lying. You're just an echo." "And what are you?" The voices were calm. They didn't accuse. They sounded curious. I pressed the key against my chest, feeling its faint vibration. If I activate this again, I can still end it. There's no end, they said. Only translation. You burned the song, Nathan. Now you are the silence that replaces it. The sky darkened. The horizon bled blue light again, faint at first, then spreading in waves. I could see movement beneath the surface, enormous shadows rising, forming outlines of impossible structures, towers, bridges, cities made of liquid light. It wasn't rebuilding the old world. It was building something new, and my pulse was guiding it. I screamed into the wind, "Stop it! Leave them alone! They're already home." The ocean rose higher. The glow intensified until it drowned out the sun. All at once, the key in my hand cracked open, spilling threads of light that climbed my arm. I tried to throw it away, but it had already fused with my skin, sinking into me. The hum turned into a roar. And then, nothing. When I opened my eyes, I was standing inside a control room. Old monitors flickered, showing live feeds from around the world. Cities half submerged, forests glowing faintly under translucent rain, people walking calmly through flooded streets, their eyes bright but peaceful. At the center of the room, a terminal blinked. Project Meridian. System restored. I stepped closer. My reflection in the glass wasn't human anymore. My eyes glowed faintly blue, veins tracing light beneath the skin. I realized where I was. Inside the system, inside it. The radio on the desk crackled again. Captain Ivers's voice came through, shaky but alive. "Dr. Cole, is that you? We're getting a signal. Global frequencies are stabilizing. You did it." I almost smiled. "I think I did something." "What are you seeing down there?" I looked at the monitors again. The entire planet shimmered under the same soft pulse. Not chaos, not silence, something in between. "I think it's listening." Static, then her voice, quiet. "Nathan, are you still you?" I glanced at my hands, at the faint light coursing through my veins. "I don't know," I said, "but I'm still here." I reached for the terminal. The keyboard felt warm, alive. I typed a single command, "Begin recording." The mic light blinked red. "My name is Dr. Nathan Cole," I said. "This is my final transmission." Outside the window, the ocean stretched to the horizon, glowing faintly like liquid glass. "If anyone hears this," I continued, "remember what I learned too late. The abyss doesn't stare back. It listens." I paused, letting the silence breathe. "Be careful what you say to it." The hum swelled, soft and endless, and then the recording cut to black. "I worked at a government facility beneath the ocean, and I regret it. I used to think the ocean was quiet, endless, empty, but after 15 years beneath its surface, I know better. The ocean remembers. It remembers every secret we buried, every scream the water swallowed, every mind it ever touched. And now, it listens. Brief pause, faint echo of sonar or distant metal creak. They told us the facility was gone, swallowed by the Pacific Trench. But some nights when the world goes still, you can still hear the hum. Not loud, just enough to make you wonder if it's calling you. Maybe you'll dream of it tonight. The node, the light, the whisper that says your name like it's always known you. If you do, don't answer, because I did. And I can't tell where the ocean ends and where I begin. This is Dr. Nathan Cole, and if you're hearing this, it's already listening. If this story made you feel something, that chill crawling down your spine, then make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. There are darker truths still buried under the waves, and next time, you'll want to be here when they surface.